go. Ladies and gentlemen, family and God, welcome to tonight's Red America First Town Hall, the nation's most engaging platform where we, the people, run the show. Red for the blood of Christ, America First policies and candidates. I'm your host, Ashley Weiss. Welcome to hashtag Town Hall by Red America First, where the spirit of our nation's founders meets the challenges of tomorrow. For 3 years, we stood as a beacon for unity and strength, draped in the symbolic red of our conviction, dedicated to America First policies and the Christian values that our nation was founded on. Here we gather not just to discuss, but to act, empowering our community through education, engagement, and the relentless pursuit of truth. With our boots on the ground, tackling corruption head on, and our weekly town hall, igniting the conversations that matter, we're at the forefront of a movement to ensure a free, prosperous, and vibrant future for all Americans. So join us as we blend heritage with vision, shaping a stronger and more unified America.
And I'm your co-host, Valerie Weiss. Tonight, I'm thrilled to have with us Blaine Holt, a retired brigadier general known by the call sign Blaino. He's not only a technology and aerospace entrepreneur, but also the co-founder of Restored Liberty and a contributor to Newsmax. But first, we have exciting announcements to make. Do not forget our newly started podcast every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, Pastor's Point. Pastor's Point's goal is to teach and encourage others about the truth of Jesus Christ. Our goal is to share the gospel of Jesus and grow in the knowledge of the Word of God and encourage all to adhere to biblical principles.
On February 20th, mark your calendars, we are inviting you to engage with a potential 2026 California governor candidate currently serving Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco. Next week, we're going to be discussing the emerging threat of China with a couple of guests. And remember, we meet every Thursday. We need support from our viewers and those who have the will to help our team. We rely on support of viewers and donors, so please, even $20 could help our national mission. Visit givesendgo.com/RedAmericaFirst/donate. And those that are joining us in the live stream, we're looking forward to grow our live panel. And you're going to see how our live panel interacts tonight with guest speakers like Blaine Holt. And participate in the famous state-to-state intel. Sign up at RedAmericaFirst.com. Tell us what state you're in and that you want to be a panel member. So with that being said, we always have formalities as we enter into the show. So we're going to bring Dr. Pastor Gray, also one of the Red America First leaders. He and his mom co-host Pastor's Point on Mondays, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the same feed. But please, bow your heads and let's let the pastor lead us into prayer. Thank you in advance.
Yes, thank you guys for joining us tonight. Please let us go before the Lord in prayer. Father, Lord, we just thank you for the days you've given us. Thank you for the time that we can come together, Lord. And we thank you for the very fact that we can, in this country, come and do this thing. We can unite together, striving forward, Father, as Red America First, as Red for the blood of Christ. We desire your will, your way to be done in this country, in our lives, with our families. And Lord, we just ask you here now to be with us, guide us, lead us tonight, Lord. Let move us in a direction that you want us to go, and let it be a fruitful conversation that we can go forward using what we learned here to help this country draw ever closer to you. And we just thank you for that. In the holy and precious name of Jesus Christ, we say, amen.
Thank you so much for that. And co-founder of Red America First, Valerie Weiss, will lead us into the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you in advance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much for that, Valerie. So I do not see Leslie on, so we'll have to skip the national anthem, and that's okay. We're going to now transition now to this amazing interview with Blaine Holt, retired Brigadier General with the United States Air Force. Welcome to our podcast, Town Hall, sir. As a prior Navy veteran myself, with air discipline and experience with Global Hawk, there's a lot of things that I wanted to chat with you. The first topic of discussion that I wanted to bring up tonight, and I might share my screen to show you this video, but let's talk about the helicopter, the Black Hawk helicopter that went straight towards the American Airlines commercial flight in Washington, D.C. I have a video, but this doesn't look accidental to me, General. What are your thoughts? And thank you for coming on tonight. Red America First.
Well, first off, it's an honor to be with you all, and thanks, Mike Velarde, for introducing me to this great forum and this great group. And you're a Navy guy. I'll tell you firsthand, I'm the son of a Navy guy who served in World War II, so I've got ocean in my background as well. But the two rebellious Holt kids went on to become Air Force officers, and both of us made flag rank. So there, Dad. The recent tragedy with the Black Hawk and the CRJ 700. We're gonna, I want to bite my lip and wait every second for that NTSB report to come out. I am gratified and happy that there was a black box on the Black Hawk, but from the second I was on Newsmax reporting on this just an hour after it happened, and Greg Kelly, I was on his show on Newsmax, and he's a former Harrier pilot, and so pilot talking to pilot, and he just said, "Well, what do you make of this?" And I said, "There's one thing sticking out to me that bothers me greatly, and as I'm talking to you right now, it still bothers me and is unaccounted for. When you're flying an aircraft, and I don't care whether it's a Black Hawk, it's my C-17 or my fast mover, the T-38, it does not matter. When you think you're going to hit something, there's going to be this hand-head interconnect with your brain that subconsciously makes that hand on the stick flinch. And and so when we look at that tape, it's very important to note that Black Hawk, the position light on it never moves. It stays straight and true as an arrow into the side of that airplane. So I've heard theories, postulated on the air about, well, they saw the wrong airplane and they never saw hitting this airplane. Maybe that's implausible to me because there's other things that need to be investigated here, such as flying 100 feet above your hard deck altitude and then flying a mile outside of your assigned corridor, and then being a pilot, a specially qualified for the National Capital Region and a whole of government mission certified pilot. That's a special qualification that you seemingly have no understanding that flying through Ronald Reagan's airspace might be might be more dangerous than just going to the left and going over Bowling and Anacostia. So long-winded answer, except to say there's things that don't add up about this wreck. And I'm not going to jump into a lot of folks on social are saying, oh, it was this, it was that. There was Saudi people involved. There was some bomb team involved. All I can think of so far is I can't see how the crew was not incapacitated on strike. I don't know how that would be. I'm not going to guess about robotics or anything else because a lot of this stuff is going to come out in the report. But this does not look normal to me, and it does not look like just a random tragic air accident. And to people who are criticizing even flying helicopters on that mission, I tell them that training is very necessary, and the crews need to know every rock and tree of that river, because if they ever have to do that for real, the other things that'll be happening will be such that they'll have to know that second nature. So that's my answer on it so far. As we get more, we'll certainly report back on it.
Cool. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. On our platform, we discuss how woke policies might be affecting how the service members work together as a unit and our ability to stay mission ready. As we are at the early stages of removing the woke military, what are some things the American people should expect, and where do you stand on this
So, well, let me tell you where I stand. I am in the warrior class. I'm not what I would call the bootlicker class or the soy boy class or any of those. I went off to join the Air Force for adventure, to serve my country, to obey and be faithful to my oath to the Constitution. None of that has anything to do with woke or DEI or any of that Marxist nonsense. So, yes, it's been very disturbing and disheartening for a lot of vets, a lot of graybeards like me, to watch the military go down this path. Before the Biden administration, even before the first Trump administration, I saw inclinations of this path when I served at a very high level in the Air Force staff, of listening to senior leaders at the top levels talk about concerns of diversity and this type of stuff. And I never got it. As a full bird colonel, I'm going to be honest, it just went in one ear and right out the other. I was like, what are we talking about? We're colorblind. We got over that a long time ago. I just want to know that you can fly the jet the right way and save my life if it's necessary, and put bombs on target, or turn the wrench the right way. Well, what this has done is it's distracted our military, and it's taken our readiness down. And we see that with accidents. We see that with demoralization of the force, breaking faith with the force. We see loss of the meritocracy being very damaging. And it's just gone down to the core. You see the service academies sponging this stuff up, and it's been very, very damaging. And I think there's a lot of accountability yet to come after this period of time is over. I know that Secretary Hegseth has got his hands certainly cut out for him. But I wouldn't look to the relieving of the Coast Guard Commandant Admiral Fagan as the end of the firings. I think that's the first shot off the bow. And if you want to, and it's not revenge, it's actually just accountability. That's all it is. You can't say I'm a DEI warrior, and I love having people in the ranks who identify as llamas or purple-headed whatevers, and let's not have hair and grooming standards anymore, and still say that you're faithful to your oath to the Constitution. Those are incompatible. There is one job for the United States military. That is to fight and win America's wars, if so called. We hope that our civilian leaders are smart enough and cunning enough to avoid warfare. I think we understand what 30 years or 20, yeah, nearly 30 years of endless, pointless wars that got us nothing but the loss of blood and treasure get us. And so, if we didn't learn our lessons in Vietnam, maybe we're going to learn them this time. But no matter what, there are jackals in this world who will have designs on us, as we well know. So what we have to do is a couple of things. We've got to put the edge back on the blade of the United States military. We have to get back to a mission focus and a fight tonight focus. And that means meritocracy. If you want to be promoted, go be the best pilot in the squadron, in my background. Don't be the air show coordinator as a special duty. Don't be the executive officer. Go be the one that can put bombs on target. And then the other side of this, which is even more daunting, is we've got to do procurement reform. We can't be throwing $4 million missiles at $250,000 drones. We can't just go back to legacy constructs and say that, yeah, aircraft carriers are the most important thing in the world, most important weapon. We've got to embrace new forms of technology. We're learning every day about AI, quantum mechanics or quantum physics, robotics, cyber, drones, all of this stuff, space, directed energy weapons. We're learning about all that stuff, and we don't even have a hypersonics capability, and nearly all of our adversaries do. So a lot of work to do. We've got to reform procurement. We've got to bust up the defense industrial base, and we've got to make it a more competitive environment. Full disclosure, I am actually with a startup that's building an aerospace and defense business right now. We hope to be in the arena to be the little guys competing with some big ideas. But that's where our country needs to be. You need to create a good ground for innovation to get to the battlefield, to get to our best and brightest who need to use those weapons, if so called. Hopefully, we're just that big and bad that we're a deterrent.
Hopefully. Well, there have been recent concerns about money laundering involving U.S. aid funds. How serious are these accusations, and how should oversight or accountability be improved to ensure aid resources are used properly? Are there any money laundering topics that are initiated from the military industrial complex that you know of?
Yeah.
Wow. Let's talk about that.
That's a big
Yeah, let's
topic
talk
for
about all of
today.
it. This is, I mean, the last 72 hours, this is what's great about Trump theater. I mean, can you imagine? We're only just over 2 weeks into this administration, and this is just, this is fun to watch. I'm
It really is.
making sure I'm well stocked on popcorn and jalapenos and cheddar cheese while I watch this stuff. But I have known for quite some time that there has been not what it used to be in my world when I was a colonel running a base in Central Asia and working with the country team and working with USAID. My walkaways were always, I didn't have the walkaway that they were um, malevolent or corrupt. I had the walkaway that they were just absolutely incompetent and that their stuff was never going to be effective, and what a waste of money. I actually took my civil engineering squadron and went to the USAID country director and I said, "Hey, all your water projects in the southern part of Kyrgyzstan don't work. Um, we've got 150 grand and 5 airmen that'll go down there and fix all that stuff and get those Kyrgyz their water that you tried to get them." And they wouldn't let me do it. They would fight me tooth and nail. They just weren't going to have it. So now I suspect it was far less about moving water to the Kyrgyz people than it was about moving money around. And so if you look at the tentacles of corruption, I would say with the USAID takedown, you're only looking at one pillar of many in what I would call a Jenga tower of corruption that's got to be brought down. But going to the nerve center of USAID and the revelations that we're finding out that they have funded everything from prosecutor NGOs that have prosecutors that were going after President Trump, paying for elements of the information and propaganda campaign through major news outlets on the impeachments and Russiagate and all that nonsense. Um, and then the astonishing thing is is watching not just the deep staters, but the what I would call corrupt politicians getting in front of microphones and crying and whining about uncovering fraud, waste, and abuse. And instead, you got guys like Hakeem Jeffries who are saying, "Oh, Elon's stealing money from the taxpayer." It's like, no, you guys have been stealing the money. You're mad that he's taking it back from you.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
there needs to be an incredible amount of not revenge, but accountability. And what I mean by the difference in that is, and Pam Bondi will get this so right, is
Mm-hmm.
unemotional, not with anger, not not with not even with mean tweets. It's you did these crimes, you will be investigated if so appropriate, prosecuted, and convicted, and whatever comes to you if this is what you've done. Um, and I would extend that out to not being faithful to your oath of office to the Constitution. But think of all the players that are just falling tonight. You've got journalists worldwide that don't know where their next paycheck's coming from because the so-called independent media was being paid for by a state. And then you've got bankers, you've got the Soroses of the world who had all their little tentacles in this stuff, and now it's getting separated. And it's just it's just the opening overture. There's a lot more to come.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
And we can't wait for it. So, another new thing you mentioned, the Trump show, right? So, the Gaza Strip has long been a flashpoint of conflict, as you know. Why
Yeah.
do you think control of this region remains so contested, and what strategic or security interest drives the situation there? And why in the heck would America want this? I don't see this as an America first move. What do you think?
Yeah, this is the the great part about this is that everybody hates it, which is just awesome, which means we're probably on the right track. The way I've kind of characterized this on the news is you got to look at Trump's negotiation style, and you have to look at I don't know if you haven't read the book The Art of the Deal, if you want to get to know our president a lot better, then read the book. But what he did was, remember when we woke up one morning and we found out President Trump wanted to buy Greenland as his opening overture, and we're like, what are we doing? What is this about? And then now we're in a serious conversation about what is American influence in Greenland going to be. It's not, Canada's not going to be the 51st state, but will we get a better deal with trade, with them getting the Chinese influence out of their country? Will we have more influence in Canadian affairs commensurate with our national security interests? Yes, yes, we are going to get that. Are we going to see the eradication of Chinese influence from the Panama Canal after saying we're just going to take it over? Yeah, we're going to get that. So now let's go here. And I know a lot of Christians are upset because if you get biblical real quick, you're like, oh no, America's not supposed to be occupying Gaza. Well, that's right. And it's not going to, I don't believe. So think about the statement President Trump made when he said, yeah, we'll probably just take Gaza and then we'll straighten it out and we'll bring the Palestinians back and it'll be beautiful. It'll be a Riviera. And if we have to put military in there, well, then we'll do that. Now, if you're the head of state in Jordan, Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Israel, Lebanon, Turkey, especially, you're thinking that statement through and you're going, oh no, we cannot have American presence in Gaza. That won't go. We can't do that. So what is the forcing function then? If they're freaked out about that, then you watch. What's going to happen is there'll be a counter proposal. I believe it's going to look a lot like the Arab nations are going to come together, set up a multinational force in concert with the Israelis, and there'll be a reconstruction effort and a joint policing effort, and then an interdiction into the education systems of the Palestinians to break the cycle of violence. And we're going to embark out on a new path that doesn't look like the insanity we've seen over the last 50 years of trying the exact same thing over and over again. Everybody's like, well, where's the two-state solution? It's like, hey, the Palestinians themselves have turned it down 3 times. So not that's not going to go. So we have to go clean out the last innards of this terrible terrorist group. We got to remind Turkey that they're a dues-paying member of NATO and that they need to stop flirting with Hamas leadership, and tell them that the terrorist state they just created called Syria needs to get fixed. And then we need to bring these countries together under an enhanced Abraham Accords, which I believe is the ultimate goal. And you watch. I think Iran faces a revolution this year. You're going to see the end of the Ayatollah, I believe. Prediction over the next 12 months. Could be wrong, but I think I'm right. And then the Iranian people give up their nukes or their nuke research and come into that. And then you watch Lebanon, I can see joining the Abraham Accords. I can even see Erdogan's government falling and then them going that route. Because what we're going to do is demilitarize American foreign policy, which was always a better plan. You know, you're talking with a guy who's been to endless war, and I get the time and the place for war. And if we're going to have one, make sure you win the damn thing and make sure you know what winning looks like when you've won it. And so this is going to be a new Trump-based plan. It might come with a lot of pain and tears right out of the gate, but I like his vision and I like where he's going to go with it. And yes, don't mind his negotiating style. You're not going to see America solely occupy Gaza. I don't believe you might see some troops there temporarily, but we've got some early cleanup to do that was left by the last administration.
Oh, thank you for that. In your opinion, how has the Secretary of Defense, Hegseth, been in handling current defense challenges, and do you think he's fit for the role given today's evolving threats and I feel like the soon-to-be war with China? What say you?
I'll argue that last part with you, but that's okay. We First off, I like Pete Hegseth. He's a very smart man. I know his heart and his values are in the right place for the job that he's got. Um, there's going to be two things here. His advantage is also his curse. So his advantage is he's not a defense industrial base insider. He's not a lobbyist insider. He's not a former congressional staffer. So he didn't come up through the traditional ranks, which just propagates more overpays and more corruption. He's been given a mandate by President Trump to go clean up the zoo and take out the woke DEI stuff, and so
Amen.
the curse part of this is it's he is naive to that level of authority inside the DoD structure. It's a very different thing than when you're a major. That doesn't mean he can't do this. He can. But what I've commended to him and his team is put the right people around you. Make sure that you've got your gunslingers. If you are going to do procurement reform, then get the biggest brain out there that you have for that. Go get the right people with the right values to do these things around you. Be a good delegator. And then the other thing is, and I think think his agenda will pick up speed. I would say do exactly what President Trump's doing. I call it a Trump's Krieg. Just go fast and at blinding speed. You know, go after these things. But we've got a lot of people that have to be eliminated from Pentagon and service, and that's not just uniforms. That's the senior executive service and the suits too. And in many ways, they're much more responsible
And
for
corrupt.
this
The
type of stuff.
SCSers are also corrupt, some of them.
You know, many of them are. Many of them. I know many of them are firsthand. So there's a lot of cleanup work. Can Pete do it? Yeah, Pete can do it. I believe I have faith and confidence that he's going to get this. There is a learning curve for him, but he will adapt very well, I believe.
Perfect, perfect. So those town hall participants, please get ready to get your hands up for Q&A. That'll be coming up very shortly here. And those in the live stream, town hall participants will be able to engage directly with guest speakers and participate in the famous state-to-state intel round. So, with your background, as Deputy United States Military Representative to NATO, how do you assess the current global military landscape, especially in light of the recent escalations, obviously in the Middle East, and then we got Russia, and then you wanted to argue with me about China. But ultimately, what should NATO's priorities be moving forward into 2025? Because a lot of conservatives say we need to pull out of NATO.
I think that's a little bit harsh. So let me
And
first
the UN.
defend.
Sorry, the UN.
Yeah, I don't mind the UN. You can push that building into the East River if you'd like. I think that'd be a good plus for America. But let me explain why I think NATO, if it can be have its course altered, is a useful entity. If you look at European history, the Europeans have this proclivity for killing and war that is almost uninterrupted, going back to the Saxons and the Gaelics and the Celtics and the Romans, and um, and it's just one war to the next war to the next war, and a whole lot of killing. Well, we go to World War II, and when we get out of World War II, NATO, 12 countries at the start of it, comes into this nucleus, and then it grows. But but as NATO gets bigger, NATO was always intended and blueprinted to be a defensive alliance, a deterrent alliance, to basically tell the Soviet Union and the Russians that Europe won't be there for the taking if you decide you're going to be the next one to go rolling across um, the gap and get into a new war. So here's the NATO that you know I have grown up with and that I have seen is at the time that I was the deputy representative to NATO, we had 28 countries. And so what I used to tell people, because the criticism at the time, especially with Afghanistan going on, is that all the NATO countries weren't paying enough. That was true, and that they weren't ready enough or big enough to make a meaningful contribution to things that we were doing. Well, I don't think that that's the benefit of NATO, honestly. Where I see the big benefit is that 6 times a week, 28 nations, now 30, 32 actually, um, have to sit down at the ambassador level and at the 3-star general level and look each other in the face and work out their problems. And these things are usually worked out over coffee, dinner. They're certainly not worked out with hand grenades and bombs. And I have been honored to be in a role as a 1-star where the 1-stars are kind of the deal makers. The deputy ambassadors and the 1-stars are kind of the ones who run around the building going, all right, Lithuania and France, I got to get them on the same page because this is never going to go. And you pull them together. I love that work. That was wonderful work. But this is a great deterrent to just warfare in general, and stops miscalculation when you have so many countries packed into a very small space. So that would be the value of NATO. Here's where it went afoul. NATO got with its leadership, starting with Jens Stoltenberg and moving on into now Mark Rutte, the Secretary Generals, and backed up by the United States and the Biden administration, no doubt about it. They actually shifted into from a defensive alliance into an offensive alliance. And yeah, they absolutely double-crossed the Russians back in '94 with the early expansion of NATO, when the promises were made that it wouldn't happen that way. But it at a clandestine level, it actually started to get a lot more brazen, and not just with Ukraine. You have seen in the last 12 months, the EU and intelligence services kind of doing soft coup upendings in Georgia, or attempting that, Romania stopping the election, um, because NATO has been looking to grow itself and counter the Russians. So that's not part of the Trump path to peace in Europe, and and it's not. I don't want to speak for President Trump, but I would say that I don't see anywhere in the Trump vision that NATO has a role to play in Southeast Asia, that NATO has a role to play as an alliance in the Middle East. Now, nations might want to. Maybe UK has equities in Saudi Arabia, and that's where they want to be. France certainly got its butt kicked out of Africa. They're a shadow of what they used to be. But this adventurism is not is not what President Trump would support. And so what's happening right now in Europe, without it being corrected, and I do believe that Matt Whitaker is going to do a great job as our ambassador over there, is they are not negotiating with the Russians. They have applied money, billions, unaccounted for billions, and weapons into this war, but no strategy and no diplomacy. And that just can't be. That's absolutely antithetical to what NATO is really about. And so I do believe President Trump's leadership is going to rue the day. But if if Secretary General Mark Rutte thinks that they can create a situation with Russia, and there's a war that breaks out, they shouldn't automatically assume that there'll be an Article 5 vote. That means that everybody has a consensus and they go to war. Attack on one is an attack on all. That President Trump's going along with that. If they're so arrogant that they think they can suck President Trump and the United States into a war, I don't see that possibility. So there's a lot of back channel conversations with Putin. Putin has a big mess on his hands with his destroyed economy, and honestly would love to be out of this war. And Zelensky hasn't gotten anywhere. In fact, the Russians militarily are getting it done on the battlefield. There's over 1.3 million dead in this war, a third of the population gone. Well over, I guess the last number was $4 trillion in infrastructure loss. So it's not going to be the way it was ever. And now it's going to have to get cleaned up. So there are a lot of pieces and parts there to lever a non-military deal to get this war off-ramped, and I think that's where President Trump's going. But he's not going to overlook NATO. I think NATO gets cleaned up, and it goes from offensive to defensive, and I think it eventually will cost the Secretary General his job.
Wow. Who? Were you ever attached to an ASOC? Any kind of controlling stuff like that with aircraft, or?
No, I was flying them. So
what platform?
Yeah. I flew T-38s, C-141s, C-17s was most of my time, and then in my graybeard years, KC-135s.
C-17, KC-135. I took MAC flights from Hickam to Travis many times. So
Great. Well, I'm proud to be the 80th pilot on the C-17 program. I was initial cadre on that airplane, and that was my first command, 16th Airlift Squadron. Incidentally, the 16th Airlift Squadron, my former command, was the one that you saw the Afghans falling off those airplanes when Kabul fell. And in fact, I had actually flown that exact airplane that you see iconically going by in that terrible, terrible day. I was doing grief counseling for a lot of our crews who trust me and wanted me to know all about what was going on and how they were facing life. I had a lot of people who used to be under my command there at Kabul when the whole thing went down.
Wow. Well, I've also been to Kandahar and Bagram, so we got some stories to share. So we're going to open up now to members Q&A. We're going to start with a cold state, then we're going to go to a warm state. So Ohio is up first, so we're going to go ahead and add Rob Ohio to this, and he's going to kick off the member Q&A, and all other members, please your hands up. Remember, we have a 30-second limit, and it has to be a question. Don't make it about yourself. Thank you so much. Rob, go ahead.
Yes. Welcome, General Holt. You were over in Kyrgyzstan. Is that
Kyrgyzstan.
Kyrgyzstan? Okay.
Two up from Afghanistan and one down from Russia.
Okay.
One of the
stands then. I noticed that the U.S. aid, they sent funds over for the LBGQ indoctrination over to there. Somehow, I don't see where a stand would take kindly to that. My question is the CIA is basically using U.S. aid as a slush fund for overthrowing countries. During the crises that you handled over there, did any of them resemble a color revolution?
So when I was in Kyrgyzstan, and to get to the front part of your observations, you're absolutely correct. So when you see money get applied into a country that culturally would be absolutely repulsed by the idea of LBGTQ, XGA, IOIO, but the what that does is set the table for friction with the government towards the United States, and then the United States goes and starts working the opposition candidates, and the opposition candidates are like, "Yeah, we'll sign up for anything as long as you help us become the leadership in this country." That's where your that's where your color revolutions come from. So, in my case, I was running the world's largest bed and breakfast in Kyrgyzstan. So everything bacon, beans, and bullets I was sending to the war, and I was sending in our troops on our jets, and then I was taking troops out, which was always a good mission, unless they came back in boxes underneath flags, which happened way too often. And our role was to make sure I was there in 09 and 10, and I was there to not only recover the wing because it was being evicted at the time, and we solved that problem, but I was also there to get triple the capacity of the wing so that we could accommodate the surge in Afghanistan that General McChrystal was responsible for operationally. So we did 98% of that surge with us at the same time the country's trying to kick us out. Well, it was a corrupt regime. Got it. I nursed that along as much as I could. I was, except for the deputy ambassador and about 4 or 5 folks over at the embassy, I wasn't. I had kind of a tough relationship with the ambassador. My boss, General Petraeus, provided a lot of top cover during that year as I did the things that I needed to do. And we had an ugly American situation. I had to learn Kyrgyz. I went and did a lot of live speeches and got on live TV and made some Kyrgyz statements. I getting away from the leadership. I started working inside of the universities. My airmen were building schools. They were throwing roofs on houses, and they were doing it with the Kyrgyz. So we didn't just hire a bunch of contractors and throw money all over the place. And that used to really tick off the USAID people because they would just contract Turkish firms to come in and do their projects. We would just, I remember the Manas mayor, he called me up. He said, Polkovnik Holt, you got to get us a roof for this high school. And I said, well, I'm not going to do that. But what I will do is this. You and I can go down to the lumber yard and we'll buy out the lumber yard. That's good for Kyrgyzstan. And then if you provide 30 villagers, I'll provide 30 airmen, and we'll have a barbecue. We'll do it together. And that's kind of the place I operated from. Well, that served us well because the revolution came, and in the spring, the regime started a massacre against a protest, and it got so out of control that the people took the country away from the regime. My relationship with a woman's group that I was supporting during the year had one of the opposition leaders in it, and she was just a fabulous, honest woman. And I helped her become the interim president to Kyrgyzstan, and we put the security under her so she could catch her feet, and we put the country back together again. And rather than the Russians and the Chinese trying to evict our base, which was what this revolution was all about, we got to stay and we got to finish the surge, and we kept the base another 4 or 5 years. But the culture now, blast forward to today's USAID and today's woke State Department that Secretary Rubio is stamping out. The Kyrgyz people just won't have any of that, and neither would any of the stand countries, because that does not match with their culture. And if you're, and the reason I told you all about how I ran my affairs is it's you, Yankee, adapt to their culture, not the other way around. So that's the mistake, and that eliminates diplomatic possibilities. And again, you struck it right on the head. Then it's a CIA mission, and what are we trying to do here? And you've never seen so much money wasted when these people do this type of stuff. And so I learned this stuff from the inside out. I was really grateful for the education, and I'm really happy for what I see happening right now.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you for that. From cold Ohio, now we're going to go to warmer climate in Hawaii. Thank you so much in advance, Mugesa, with your question. Thank you.
First of all, thank you, sir, for your service to our country.
Thank you.
And thank you for your clear communication and discourse with us this evening. My question is domestic. So we have Tom Homan down taking care of the illegal immigrants into our country and supposedly MS-13 gangs and so, but they're also in cooperation with the U.S. military. Is it safe to say that the U.S. military is there more to weed out the terrorists and the terrorist pods that have planted themselves throughout the United States at this time? Or and what is your overall opinion with that?
Yeah, so the answer is all of the above. You're and honestly, military planning, I think, was privately going on before President Trump even got elected. I think they probably anticipated the order would come to go the way it's going. But Tom Homan, who is one of the most serious people in our nation, period. He is a no BS guy, and he's got a very clear vision about how he wants this to go. And so the military is there to backstop him on the border right now. That's how Tom Homan can say crossings are down by 97%. Because now you're seeing the Guard, elements of active duty, but this also puts you in it doesn't put you in a permanent place of comfort that the military can be sustainably there. Eventually, tents have to become buildings, buildings have to become bases, and so on and so forth. And it's not a good arc to be on. So here's how I see it going. I think you should call this phase the tourniquet phase, which is put a tourniquet on it and let's stabilize the situation while Tom starts the outward flow. Let's get the most dangerous, egregious into Gitmo if we have to, no place for them, while the diplomacy starts to catch up, which it already is. You're seeing Guatemala, El Salvador, Panama saying already, we'll take anybody. So you can deport them here and we'll take care of that. And Mexico's now coming around because they've decided that tariffs aren't in their best interest. So that means that the military then can start looking at its follow-on mission and its very serious mission, because it's going to be a foreign and domestic mission. And that is, we are so ate up with the cartels. And I have a source that has done the investigatory work. In fact, I'm trying like the Dickens to get him connected to the Trump team, because him and his team, he's a former Marine, him and his team have a lot of information to pass. The cartels are in bed with everybody. If you think about a corrupt body, like head, shoulders, feet, a corrupt body, the veins and the blood would be the cartels. They're the ones that do the money laundering, the killing, the drug use, all of that. And they flow between these elements in the body. So instead of a head, I'd call it the World Economic Forum. Instead of a heart, I'd call it the Chinese Communist Party. The globalists, the bankers, they are all in some way, fashion, or form connected. And the cartels have been the grubby little, we'll do your dirty work stuff. And some of that influence, quite honestly, I think we're going to find out. I don't have the evidence of this, but I think we're going to go find out that it's reasonable to assume there's compromised elements in Washington, D.C. that need to get after as well. But there is a money path here, and it's not, so you can't say, wow, they covered their butts with crypto. Not exactly. There's a lot of technology out there that's done some really good work. So I think the next thing you'll see the military do, and I already see first signs of it, is we're in the Air Force, we are using ISR intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance platforms like Rivet Joint. The Navy's using their Poseidon P8s. And this is to go gather what we call signals intelligence across the region. They're already flying those missions right now. And a byproduct of those types of missions is you start to identify stuff very quickly with our models on the ground of what those first target sets are going to look like to go at the cartels. So if you have a fentanyl lab in Oaxaca, Mexico, I don't think it's going to be there by June. I think that you're going to see combat missions flown, surgical strikes flown, Reaper hits on high value targets. I think you're going to see roll ups here in the United States. I think you're going to see cities where we know there's significant cartel leadership and distribution going on. And then I think you're going to see senior leaders who might have interesting relationships get identified and spotlighted. But I think that the war on the cartels is a very serious war. It's not going to be like the war on the war on terrorism. You can't have a war on a thing. The cartels are people. They are identifiable. They have assets. So if you see a 300-foot yacht sink out by Baja California, who knows who did it. But we might not always say who did it. Sometimes we will say that we did it, and sometimes we will get their attention by doing that. But I think that's how this kind of breaks out. And then you watch Washington get cleaned up when the cartels take their fall.
Thank you. I'm in alignment with that.
Thank you, Miguel, for that question. All the way from Hawaii. Now let's call on another one of our pillar leaders. Miguel in Hawaii was our corruption pillar leader. Now we're calling on Mike Velarde. Thank you, Mike, for hooking us up with General Holt. But what's your question, Mike? Go ahead.
Blaine, great to have you on the show. Here's my question. Right before the office.
Your mic, Mike. Tweak it.
Okay. Give me 1 second.
We're going to have to do a mic check with Mike.
Yeah.
10 minutes before the show starts.
Okay, that should be better.
Yes,
that better?
Yes.
Okay. All right. General, before he left office, Joe Biden gave away billions upon billions to Ukraine. Nothing for North Carolina. Nothing for California when the fires started. Joe Biden is so corrupt that he has to be getting a kickback. What do you think the end result will be from him giving away all that money? Do you think they'll go after him?
I'm not sure. My personal preference would be that they would. I don't think that to use Nancy Pelosi's favorite statement, no one's above the law except for, of course, them. They don't tell you that part. But I don't think anybody should be escaping accountability. And here's what encourages me to believe that there might be some move in that direction. If you look at how they attacked President Trump with the lawfare, with getting his tax records, with invading his residence and doing the swatting, if you look at all of that, along the way, all those legal maneuvers, they establish precedents. And so now you're sitting on a cask. I mean, Pam Bondi's got tools that were not available in the first Trump administration, just simply because of the precedent that the opposition established in trying to ruin President Trump. So what does that mean? That means that when we talk about asset forfeiture, something you know well about, Mike, you can go recover some of this money. And the money's recoverable. So I wouldn't sit there and say, "Oh, it's all gone. We're bankrupt. We put it in Johnny's LLC in Cayman, and they burned up all the money." It's not going to work that way. So I think there's a path here. Will they take that path? I don't know if it's going to be taken on President Biden. I am certain that it will be taken against a lot of elements of the former administration. I think when you look at just the USAID stuff, you've got the ability to do clawbacks. Look at the stuff going to media. Hey, Politico, right. Nice try. You owe us this. And honestly, the way that it works in the government, this too, is you just set it up as a government overpay or mispay, which is, the government paid you money. We weren't supposed to. We fired Skippy, who paid it to you, and now we want our money back. And that may sound unfair if you're Skippy's NGO, but that's the way it works. So there is the ability to recover some of these assets and do some damage, but will they go after President Biden? I'm just not sure. The other thing that's interesting to me, and I'll stop here, is there is still not letting go the fact that they have proven that the 2020 election was stolen.
Oh my goodness.
They're going to make that case. And
Right.
and if they make that case and he was the president fraudulently, let me ask this question. It's rhetorical. I don't need an answer. But the question I would ask is, are any of those pardons then valid? I would say they're not.
Right.
So then game on.
Now, were you just saying that because there was 11 million people that voted for Joe Biden but didn't show up for Kamala Harris?
You mean 81 million, the greatest
Yeah.
president of all time?
Right.
And only 69 million for it's look, I mean, we all know what happened. And the thing that was sad is USAID was paying people to dox us, to censor us, to castigate us as tinfoil hats.
Right.
And look, there's a plug for the book. And
it is.
And so Americans are, pardon my French here, but Americans are pissed off, and it gets to everything from the pharma stuff to the vax mandates, and then all of this misinformation where they wanted to do what they're doing in the UK right now. They wanted to come after us and lock us up if we said the wrong thing on social. And now we find out on USAID it was the Minister of Truth here, Nina Jankowski, who was setting up the Ministry of Truth in the UK. So, it's an interesting web. There's just stuff coming out every single day. It's very hard to keep up with, especially if you're
wait
on the
for the
news.
accountability to come. So
Me too.
We're gonna go to Kentucky to hopefully a new Red America First family member. Cheryl, go ahead with your question. Thank you so much. 30 seconds.
Hi, thank you so much. General Holt, I have a question. Since we're talking about rebuilding the military and really looking at that meritocracy, talk to us a little bit about or walk us through that whole process of how we lost a lot of our servicemen because of their noncompliance during the C-19 mandate. And the second part to that question would be, how are we going to ensure that that type of thing does not happen again?
Yep. So, Cheryl, good to see you. Thanks for being here. And everybody, after this is all over, please pray for Cheryl and Ashland, Kentucky. The floods and the storms have just been horrendous, and there's so many people hurting there. And now to the question. So, President Trump's doing the best he can to right the ship for the 8,600 whose lives were inalterably changed when our military went after them. I hope that they'll expand that out to the people who were on active duty and remained on active duty, but felt that they were coerced into taking the shot. So there's two categories of folks there. I don't believe a lot of the 8,600 will come back because of trust issues, but I do see that writing that is now already increasing our recruitment and enlistment numbers and retention numbers because they see that we're going to put this military back together again. The key is going to be accountability. It's Lloyd Austin, you made that call. On what basis did you think an experimental vaccine was okay to enforce and ruin decorated, valorous veterans' lives? On what basis did you do that? And I'll bet you don't have a basis. So why don't you go get a criminal attorney because you're going to need one. And that's how you deter that in the future, because when they see a leader like that fall and all the other little creepies that went down that path, well, then that's how we stop it from happening again. And it's all part of putting the edge and back on this readiness that we need for our military. The military can't be a social or political experiment again, and I think we're gonna go in that direction. Hope that helps.
Yeah, great news. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl, and hopefully we do see her come back, and we will do some prayers for Kentucky because I didn't know about these floods. Next person, we're going to Texas. If we could get the video up. There we go. And this is a prior Army veteran, good friend of ours. He is one of the pillar leaders, Red America First as well, helping out candidates and whatnot. So, Randy Perham, go ahead with your question. Thank you so much. Hua.
Hey, good evening, sir. Fellow NATO alum. I was in Naples.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hollywood.
Yeah, exactly. Loved it there. I was there 2017 to 2020, retired out of there. My question to you is the with the interdiction with Marco Rubio down in Panama, uh, uh, having China being stopped from utilizing the Panama Canal, the Belt and Road Initiative that China is utilizing, around the world essentially. What are your thoughts on how China is going to respond with that and Trump's tariffs on China, and how all that's going to work globally?
So they're really pissed, but
Yeah.
they're very quiet. And this is going to get me to answer the first question on why we're not going to go to war with China. Um, China is failing internally. Its economy is in absolute shambles because they have a communist system and they lie to themselves every day about everything. So there's what did I just see last count? Over 380 banks just failed in China, and there's runs on their banks, and they can't feed themselves, and there's floods and natural disasters, and Xi Jinping is worried about being assassinated by his own army, no less. That's the backdrop. Their real estate bubble has popped. Their unemployment rate, they say that is 7%, is really more closer to 39%. This Chinese New Year, hardly anybody was really moving on the travel lines to go be with their families. They couldn't afford to. Shanghai is a ghost town. Foreign companies are leaving in droves. I mean, billions in Chinese wealth has left the country and continues to. So this is why China's been rather quiet since Trump decided to show them the door on the Western Hemisphere because they don't really have a lot of aces to play. So you would say, oh, this means that they're going to go after Taiwan. Really? Well, they know full well that Taiwan has their very own missile system that Taiwan won't even share with us what those details are. And three of those missiles, my understanding from my very good friend who's the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs in Taiwan, three of those missiles could take out the Three Gorges Dam and half the population of China. China knows that. And a couple of missiles, say, for Jiangnan High, where their Washington, D.C. is. So they can't, and the PLA well knows this. I know PLA generals, and they're not into death cults. They're not into not surviving. And they would lose face completely if they got into a war with Taiwan that looked like the start of the Ukraine war. So where President Trump wants to be is he wants to put Xi Jinping into a good containerized pen that will get them to behave. He wants to remove their influence. But if they want to keep spending money on Belt and Road, which they don't have, they're just going to bankrupt themselves further. And that's just fine with us because if you want to look at a historical parallel, I would say China is now wrapping up its experience in colonialism that the Europeans got thrashed with in Africa all those years ago, and they still even have flirtations with. So, so I'm very, very excited that the CCP may fall in the next 5 years, I think. And certainly we'll see some new leadership. Does China balkanize? I don't know. If it goes into military hands, I think it does. But big stuff for China. I just don't see China getting to a war place with us. And I'm not going to say it's not dangerous. We have hundreds of thousands of Chinese right here on our soil unaccounted for. Tom Homan's got that. We've got their weapons, advanced weapons over our heads right now. We understand that. But if there's nothing left of China, are they going to really do that? So if you remember, in the history of the Mongol hordes going to Mongolia, the Khan sent them all through the steppe, and the Mongol hordes were banging on the gates of Vienna, and they were about to sack Vienna and Hungary when Genghis Khan died. And when Genghis Khan died, it created a political vacuum. And hey, guess what? They all fled back to Ulaanbaatar. And I think China's kind of in a similar type of spot right now.
Perfect. Thank you for that question. We're going to now get Rosemary up here. Trying to get Sandra to unmute, so we'll try to get her to unmute.
Yes, first of all, thank you for sharing all of the information tonight that you have been doing.
Thank you.
I would I would like to ask you with regard to Trump's proposal with the Gaza Strip. Do you think that it is just a ploy in order to bring about more negotiations between the other nations in order to have a better type of long range peace plan?
Yes, I think that's the direction that we're heading in. I think he got the attention with his attention getting step that the United States would take Gaza. And I think what happens next is the Gulf states will come together and put forward a counter plan. And I think you're going to find Jordan and Egypt get a lot more soft on their moratorium of taking Palestinian refugees into their country, at least for temporary resettlement until Gaza can be rebuilt. And and I think that what President Trump has done is to create a very strong ultimatum that he can back up, um, but that will cause the players in the region to come together on the Gaza problem in a new way. And quite honestly, I think that happens under an enhanced Abraham Accords, where we get to demilitarized free market solutions that everybody benefits from. I think that there's a lot of good reasons that all of those countries have to follow his lead. Think about what President Trump loves to say about oil and gas. He says drill baby drill. Well, drill baby drill actually means the price of oil is only going in one direction, down. And if you're Saudi Arabia or Russia, that has to scare the daylights out of you. So if Saudi Arabia is looking at a future world of $30 to $40 a barrel for oil, and it costs them $50 a barrel to pull it out of the ground, you may find that Saudi is much more amenable to some of your diplomatic overtures.
Thank you for that, General. We have a question that came in live. Your perspective on the revealing and the NHI hype somewhat expected for January. Will current events be impacted in the near term by any of that?
NHI, I'm not sure I understand the question.
We'll try to get clarification on NHI, non-human intelligence, etc.
Oh, this is getting back to my famous Finnerty Stephen Greer interview where I got asked, where are you at on the UFO thing? Yeah, so I'm very open-minded. I do not have, as an Air Force guy, I will tell you, I have not been to Area 51. I've never had an alien on my C-17. I have never had a spaceship, and I haven't seen one from my jet. But uh, do I think maybe there's a possibility that there are UAPs and phenomena that is non-human intelligence? Sure, I'm open-minded to that. What I caution and what was kind of missed is everybody was like, "Oh my God, the Air Force guy said there's aliens." The next breath, what I said was, the bigger concern that I have as all of these UFO whistleblower reveals are coming out, and we've been using this technology and that technology. I'm not closed-minded to that, but what I am saying is, if someone says in the next, I don't know, 12 months, 2 years, oh, aliens have made contact, they're hostile, and we're going to see an alien invasion, then my hackles and my suspicion are going to go up through the roof, because I'm just not going to be a buyer that that's the ground truth. We have seen this nonsense in drones up over the eastern seaboard and now across the nation. These projections of orbs. I mean, honestly, this is just terrorizing the American people. And we get, then you get these people on the Hill saying, "Oh yeah, listen, we've got gravitic propulsion, and I saw ET. I was there at this." It's all lore, and probably there's some truth in some of these things, but what we need to do is, I always ask when I hear a news story or when I hear something sensational, I always go, well, what is that really? What's behind that? What are the motivations? Why does somebody want to get us in that methodology? What is the predictive programming behind me understanding that I need to now focus on ET? And what I say on TV a lot is, if you've listened to me, is Americans are more concerned with their financial situation right now, that there are overrun with 30 million illegals in this country, and that we're a little concerned about our liberties and our Constitution. So if you tell them that ET is real and is here, I don't think it's going to get too many people really kind of interested. I think they're going to go, yeah, great, I expected that. Let's move on.
Perfect. We have a question from Nevada. Sandra, Nevada, go ahead with your question. Thank you in advance.
Okay, two questions. Hi, Mr. Holt.
Hey.
It's nice to have you. I've
Thank you.
really enjoyed listening to you. You have a lot of knowledge. I Googled you before we came on the show so that I could get an idea of who you were. And I think I pulled up your father. Does he have your same name?
Yep, my father is Glenn Holt, and he was a Navy Seabee in the Philippines.
Okay, yeah. Anyhow, you know what I really wanted to ask you? Um, do you believe that tribunals will ever be a possibility again in this world? Because I think of all times, this is the time.
Yeah, I do. And it's a serious thing to get out in front of this and say, do I think that this is going to happen? Do I think it should happen? I think it should. Again, I don't think we should enter a period of retribution or revenge. I think those are horrible words and they're antithetical to our Constitution and our government. But we have been severely injured as a people, our liberties. And I'm not talking over the last 4 years, I'm talking over the last maybe 40 to 50 years. Quite honestly, if you want to run historical strands back to this, I can take you right to the War of 1812, where this thing starts to get a little bit wobbly. And then we go on to the 16th and 17th Amendments, and then we get into stacking courts in with FDR and the New Deal and things that start to usurp your liberties. And then our generation did it to ourselves with the Patriot Act. So here we are. The government has grown to a place where it's not self-governance for us anymore. It's not of, by, and for the people. And I believe we have this fleeting chance to fix it. I believe we've got this champion. He's not perfect. No one is. And I think we've got a great chance to right the ship here. But I think if we are going to have tribunals, if we are going to hold people to account, and I mean unemotional accountability, you did this crime, this is what happens to you. If we're going to get that, it won't be President Trump who's able to pull that off. It will have to be that the apathy of the American people towards its political systems will have to go away. It will have to mean that grassroots, by exponential numbers more, will have to take an interest in their government and hold their local, state, and federal officials' feet to the fire and not say, I just hate politics. I don't ever pay attention to that. If the people who wake up in the mornings and go, okay, Trump got elected, we're done, we're fixed. It's like, well, there's going to be a financial crash that he can't stop because that's like a super tanker, and maybe that'll remind you that no, liberty is a tree that needs to be pruned every daggum day, and President Trump needs Americans to be Americans and to stand up and to support those things. So I think if we melt the switchboards of the DOJ, the FBI, and our elected reps in Congress, um, they'll get the encouragement they need to make sure that they do the right thing by the folks who tried to steal our country and give it away to globalists.
Yeah. Thank you for that. One more thing. I was thinking about like how Trump performs and stuff on TV when he's doing his signing of the orders or his executive orders, and he'll have the whole slew of reporters in there, and he'll be describing what he's doing and stuff. He's like a teacher to the people, showing us the step by step on what goes on up there. I really have a lot of respect for that, and he's going to be a hard act to follow.
Well, if you think of everything they tried to do to him, he seems very serious. And when I look at the first lady, she seems very serious. So I think they take everything that's happened to them to heart, and I think that are in such connection with the pain of the American people. It's an obvious thing to me. And so, if his relationship with our Lord and his communion with the people stays in balance, then I think we're on a path that's going to go to great heights, and we can breathe a little easier for our children and our grandchildren.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So now we've got a go back, and then General, how much more time we got with you tonight?
Well, I think we could do 2 or 3 more questions, and then I think we probably got to wrap it.
Copy that, sir. So we're going to call in our pillar leader for corruption. Go ahead, Miguel. Thank you.
Thank you. I have another domestic question.
Okay.
Hawaii is not a border state, but we are a strategic state because we're the trade routes of the Pacific, where a lot of the drugs and human trafficking are taking place. We also have a number of illegal immigrants here. We even had one that became president who claimed to be born here. How does Tom Homan and the military do their process of weeding out the terror cells and the things from island to island? And
Right.
we know we have eyes in the sky and the Coast Guard in the sea, but how is that going to happen?
So my guess, I don't have the details on what's going on with Hawaii, and I don't have Homan's tactical details, but to venture an educated guess for you, I would think that Hawaii would be very high on the list for both DHS, Tom Homan, and the DoD, simply because of our military presence there and the knowledge that that's one of our early warning sites. And we learned our history back to Pearl Harbor that Hawaii cannot be unattended or unguarded. And if you've got adversaries inside the wire, so to speak, meaning living amongst you in the islands, then those have to be a priority. I think the challenge, somewhat of a challenge, is going to be the friction generated by your governor and your politicians who don't yet have, in my view, my opinion, a sense of the seriousness or the gravity of the problem. I get liberals, I get conservatives, and I understand the competing agendas. But what I find in just the people running things, look, I've got a Republican governor here in Idaho, and I'll just tell you straight up, I don't think he has an appreciation for how China, the federal government, and the illegals are bearing down on Idaho. I don't think he has an appreciation for it at all. So hopefully there's going to be some work with the federal level to the governor level, and we don't have to see people being embarrassed, but I do think that Hawaii is going to remain a very high priority, and certainly for the DoD, I know it is.
My governor is a complete Marxist and works for the United Nations, and all the islands are controlled by the United Nations. So
yeah, but you know who else is a Marxist is President Scheinbaum of Mexico. And right now, she's going through her Saul to Paul conversion because of leverage. And so you can tell me that your governor is Pol Pot or Mao Zedong, and what I'm going to tell you is the president will go find levers that will get behavior modification. That's just my opinion.
Well, our governor also thinks he's Dr. Fauci because he's a quote medical doctor who's still pushing mask wearing, COVID, and all that stuff here.
Well, we'll see what happens to Dr. Fauci in the coming weeks and months, and then maybe your governor will start to learn a few things new.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Miguel. So we have another question coming in from Nevada because he wasn't able to put his hand up. So go ahead, Ron, with your question, and then we got one more question from Oklahoma, and then we're going to close with a couple more questions from Valerie and I, and then we'll let the poor general, well, not poor general, but let the general have some sleep. What state are you in, General?
I'm in Idaho.
Oh, wow. Boise?
No. I'm up here near the Canadian border.
Oh, okay.
It's the safest distance I could find from Washington, D.C. to settle.
I like the way you're thinking, sir. So, Ron, Nevada, go ahead with your question. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. Thank you, sir. I salute you. I thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Your knowledge is all encompassing. It's amazing, your knowledge. And I just wanted to run a couple ideas to you. I'm a veteran, but I would like your impression of Erdogan in Turkey, and do you see that as a possible problem in the future, especially having nukes there? And do you think we'll ever get out of the UN with this administration? And again, I thank you for being here. It's been a pleasure listening to your knowledge.
Well, I appreciate that, Ron. So let me tackle the UN one first. It's possible. We're disconnecting now from a lot of the UN's worst organizations. But if the president is to close the door on the UN and close the door on our participation in it, I don't see that happening until kind of the curtain call, meaning the end of his administration or the end of the main parts of his agenda are, because there is a useful it's useful not to make that the big issue right now while we have so many other issues to go after. And unnecessarily dumping the UN into the East River, as fun as that sounds, I think Elise Stefanik there holding the water for President Trump's vision is actually very useful right now. So that's one. Two, um, Erdogan is a problem and has been a problem for quite some time. And they have, I was at NATO headquarters when he set up the fake coup against himself, blamed the army, and then sacked all the army generals, including the two that worked one floor right above my office. He is a dictator. That is not a democracy.
He's an Islamist.
Yeah, he is. Of course, he is. He views that he has dreams of the resurrection of the Ottoman Empire. He has dreams of being the regional hegemon, and that's why he incubated HTS, which is a new and different name for Al Qaeda or the Al Nusra Front. Doesn't really matter. And he impaneled them in Syria, and he's all about killing Kurds, which stood by us in Iraq. So
exactly.
He also has threatened Israel directly several times. So, as a NATO member, what about that sounds like he's being a good NATO ally? Not a whole lot. So, again, you get to the levers. Should Erdogan, and I think President Trump, before Election Day, he had said to Erdogan on social media, Hamas or NATO, you got to pick which one. I do think that President.
Oh my! He said that. That's amazing.
I think President Trump is going to deal fairly sternly with Turkey. The basing there was very geostrategically significant for us, but
it has nukes there.
Yeah, I can't, because of my former role, I can't talk about that. But what I can say is that we have significant NATO and U.S. basing there. I used to be deployed to Incirlik. That we have to evaluate. And so here's the thing. Erdogan's current position is untenable and inconsistent with NATO and President Trump's agenda. At some point, you will see Erdogan making very tough choices that President Trump will be putting before him. And I think that the first thing that Erdogan needs to be thinking about is, okay, I created Syria. Now how am I going to fix it? Because that's going to be a terror state here soon, and that's just a fact. So Turkey is on the dime. Could I see a world where at the end of President Trump's administration, Turkey is no longer a member of NATO? Yeah, I can see that, except for the fact the Turks were shown the door on the EU. They weren't allowed in. That's why Erdogan helped unleash the immigrant crisis into Europe.
Yes.
And then the other part of that is they got dissed again when they went to the BRICS conference in Kazan, Russia in October. They were given associate status, but not full member status of BRICS. And so, he's always the bridesmaid, never the bride. And I think that Erdogan.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your knowledge.
Thank you.
So now we're going to Oklahoma with someone that you may know. Wendy, Oklahoma, go ahead. Thank you so much. You're unmuted, but we don't hear you. Fix your mic. There you go. No, we heard some clicking. Just unplug it, maybe. Mike Velarde has these problems too. Uh-oh, we don't hear. We don't hear. So, she's part of Restore Liberty. Wendy Montgomery. She wanted to say hello, I think.
It's good to see her here. I appreciate the support.
Yeah, we'll have to get her to fix her microphone. In the interim, first and foremost, how did you like your experience with Town Hall tonight?
Hello.
Oh, it's been marvelous. I really enjoy the discussion. I actually, when I go on Newsmax, I hardly ever even know what the questions are going to be or what the topics are to talk about. So I'm really become a utility shortstop. So you guys have all kept me on my toes, and I really do appreciate the discussion. Because these are the most important topics in the nation right now, and we have to get after them. And I think it's very important for us to have talks like this. And I love seeing venues like this grow, and it gets to the worry that I have that our country might slip back into an apathetic place on these very important things. But I can see with this group that's not the case.
Well, I got to tell you, General, that we've been hit with censorship and a lot of unfairness. So the growth has been kind of had this big firewall. So thank you for promoting the event tonight, because we did get new people that came on tonight because of that effort on your side. So
That's great.
Wendy got her mic fixed, and then we got a couple more questions.
I'm not sure. You'll have to tell me.
Gotcha. Hey,
Can you hear
Wendy.
me? Okay. I have a question. It's a follow-up from Cheryl, actually, or question on the vaccines. So, Blaine, do you think that with RFK Jr. potentially as the head of the HHS, and then with Pete Hegseth, the head of the Department of Defense, that they will able to extend basically not forcing vaccines on our soldiers, especially, and I've researched the anthrax vaccine. So would they be able to potentially opt out of other vaccines and not be forcibly vaccinated as they have been for the past several decades? And then the other question, of course, is on elections. Do you think that when we find out what's been going on with the elections and investigations ensue, that tribunal should also be used to try anyone that's been convicted of, affecting the or manipulating the presidential election? Maybe not the other election, but the presidential election in 2020. Thanks.
Yeah,
It's good to see you.
It's good to see you. I think on the election piece, I'm pretty harsh about this. We are supposed to be a self-governed nation. That's what the founders had enshrined for us. And I know that when we get to election fraud, the way the legal arguments will take up that if you have violated federal election laws and have engaged in election fraud, then in some cases it'll be fines. In some cases it could be jail time, maybe a lot of jail time. But I would take a harder stance on that because of why our vote is so sacred to us and how cavalier they were with it. I see voter fraud as treasonous behavior. And I think that it does, I have no problem with tribunals or military courts where the ultimate punishment for treason is in play, which is capital punishment. It just depends on what your level of malfeasance was. But if you had co-opted and were successful in falsification of results for the presidential election, well, then I think you're exposed to the harshest liability our country can levy on you. You're not that's one man's opinion. It's just my opinion. I don't know where it'll go. And then on the vax stuff, yeah, I'm a 12-time anthrax vaxxer, and I really tried not to take that thing. When we first started going, in my flying squadron, it started out as a nice program. Hey, we want you to take the anthrax vaccine. Well, we looked it up and we said, I'm not taking that. And then they sent down a medical team to our squadron and said, you're taking the medical vaccine or you're getting an Article 15, which is non-judicial punishment, basically ruin your career. So we looked it up and we looked at the side effects and we were like, okay, is this really the hill to die on? Some people did die on that hill and I respect them for it. They were like not doing it. But I decided that I would go ahead and comply with that anthrax vaccine. It's just that I still got in trouble when I took it because I showed up with all my friends in the squadron and the nurses were giving us the vaccine. As soon as they gave me the vaccine, I threw myself on the ground and started convulsing and had saliva come out of my mouth. And the nurse didn't like that humor. She said, Major, you're going to stop that. And that's not funny. And then I stopped doing it and I said, no, that's pretty funny. But I did 12 of those. So now let me get you to what I think is going to happen. They're going to clean up the accountability part first. And then I think the Defense Health Service, if they get to remain intact, we could see health go back to the services as I think it should. But I think the policy is going to be a lot more wide open on mandatory vaccines. In some cases, it's still going to be necessary to have mandatory vaccines by your job description. So for me, as an airlift pilot, I went to 135 countries in my jet. Well, that meant that, I didn't really have a choice. Typhoid, yellow fever, cholera, I'll take those. And those are real. But when we talk about mRNA vaccines and some of this new stuff, or the flu vaccine or anthrax, I think that's got to be implied consent. And if you don't want to take it, then I think that that's okay, as long as nobody can prove it. There's an impact to military readiness.
Wow. Well, General, thank you so much for coming on Town Hall on RedAmericaFirst.com. We just want to know a couple things. Would you come back as a guest?
Of course, I would come back. This is very enjoyable.
And lastly, when you get a chance, tell other Americans to come to Red America First. We'd love
I absolutely
help
will.
to grow because we get hit with so much unfairness with Facebook and all the others. But thank you so much for coming tonight and spending a good hour and a half with us. I owe you a margarita, Hua.
I'll take you up on that.
And do you come?
I appreciate everybody. Prayers for Ashland and West Virginia.
Do you travel to Florida often?
Well, the company I'm building has its headquarters there, and that's also the same region where we're going to find that cool place, Mar-a-Lago. So I get down there every once in a while.
Where's the headquarters of your?
It's in Boca Raton.
Okay. Valerie and I are right smack in the middle of the state in a conservative county. So, but we're about 20 minutes from Disney World. So
very good. That's awesome.
Feel free to hit us up when you're in town. I don't have any trips in Idaho anytime soon, but when you head this way, please.
Well, it's beautiful here. We got snow and we've got attitudes, which I don't know that you need anything else.
There you go.
Well, thank you so much for coming tonight. We're going to be going into the state-to-state intel round. I did have a 2A update from our 2A expert in Texas, but he had to drop off for a second. So we'll get. Thank you so much, General.
Thank you.
You have a good
night. Take care. Dismissed.
What an amazing interview with him. So, goodness gracious, that was a good interview with the General there. Now we're going to go into the state-to-state intel round. We're going to try really hard to get this kind of the way we used to do it in the past. But there's some hot pressing things that we want to cover first. Obviously, there's a lot of things that just transpired over the last week. So let me go ahead and pin some people up here. And after we cover a couple of hot topics that transpired this week, then we'll go to state to state. So, Mike, what's the first topic? Rob will have the second. Magace will have the third. But every member gets to chat with us. And then we'll go to state, and we're going to call on Nevada right after these hot topics. So, Mike, go for it.
Well, I think the hottest topic here in Florida is the two special elections for Congress. Matt Gaetz's seat and Mike Walsh's seat. And I'm not particularly
Whoa. Hang on. Tell us hot topic for national. We're not going to state yet. Go ahead.
though that is national, they're congressional seats.
Hey, you didn't specify. It's
fine. Continue.
Mike's call.
I love it. All right, so we're worried about these congressional seats?
Yeah, I'm not too happy about some of the candidates that they're putting forward in these congressional races.
So they're not America First candidates?
Well, I think they're weak Republican candidates. I understand they didn't have a lot of time. I haven't heard much about Matt Gaetz's seats, but the guy that Trump is getting behind in the race for Mike Walsh's seat, which is the district right next to me, is not they're just not strong. I mean, not that we're going to lose it to the Democrats because they are in highly Republican districts, but I guess with the lack of time, they haven't brought forward a lot of they don't have strong backfill. They don't have strong people to take over, you know? And it's a concern.
So in parallel to this, send me those names so Valor and I could look into this with you. But
okay.
But ultimately, if it's a conservative, hard conservative county, district, and Florida, come on, right now Florida is MAGA red. Florida is probably the strongest conservative state from a numbers perspective at the moment.
Right.
Okay, but you don't like those candidates. I mean, what's the solution? I mean, I can't. We can't support someone on the other side. Then we don't have the majority.
No. You're right. I think the solution is what the Republican Party needs to do in Florida is to prep people better. The Republican Party, I mean, when I ran for Congress, wasn't really impressive. And they need to, if they have a good candidate, they need to be able to get behind a good candidate with money, with funding, with people that could. So you have the next up, you know what I'm saying? Kind of like the farm system, like the Yankees have a farm system, you know what I mean? They need a second baseman. They pull from AAA. They got somebody solid, and I'm not seeing that necessarily here, and I don't know, just a little concerning to me.
No, we understand. Look, we don't lie.
We were here when when you were running and everything else, and things were just not that great with the RNC here in Florida.
Florida as a whole, in all the recs and all the counties, there's a lot of shenanigans really going on with rhinos and uniparty people. And I promise you, we're getting attacked from within, and it's still happening. The Republican Party in Florida. So send me those names. Let's peel the onion. Let's figure out a plan. And it is concerning, but I'm just telling you, from a numbers perspective, I don't think the blue has a chance in either of those races.
Oh no, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that I think we could have put stronger people in. If I had $2 million, I would have ran for Mike Walsh's seat, but not having the money, which is always the biggest obstacle because you can't get your name out without name recognition, it's very tough to win. So what happens a lot of times is they'll compromise with people that have money instead of necessarily the character and the integrity to hold the seat.
Understand. Thank you for that, Miguel. So, what's the topic that you want to bring up at the national level that is concerning to you?
Yeah. I wouldn't call them concerning, but those in the congressional hearings to me are the hottest topics. Now that we're going to go after the Department of Education and see all the fraud there, and watching the Democrats take to the streets to tell people to start fighting in the streets. What happened to democracy? Saving democracy. They're totally violating that. They're showing their true colors and they're trying to protect their own their own interests. So to me, that's a big wake up call for many other Americans who may be still sleeping for whatever reason to see what's really unfolding, where their money, taxpayer monies are going. And when you look at all the money that was wasted, we would not have any homeless or starvation or anything in this country if it all went to good use. But it's all going to fraud overseas, most of it. So to me, that's the topic. Cash Patel has to be approved.
So they're
By the
they're delaying that, right? Because I think a lot of them are kind of worried what's going to come out of it.
well, they should be.
It's not going to die like Epstein.
Yeah. Well, what is that saying? Those who scream the loudest have the most to hide. And boy, are they screaming now.
Wow.
So that to me is the topic.
Outstanding. Rob,
Well,
yours?
my hot spot would be the U.S. equivalent of Pravda. The all the mainstream media, Politico, New York Times, that had millions of subscriptions bought by the government. So we know anybody that, anytime
Can Red
you
America
spend that
First
kind of
get
money.
millions of subscriptions? Can we get some millions of subscriptions? Come on. But
Yeah, well, where's our free subscription to those? I mean, they had millions. They can only read so many. But, that's just goes to show you that everything we've been taught lately is wrong.
Boom. We have been
There's always
right about many things on this platform, and I'm glad that our Patriot family is growing, and all of us are very passionate about what's been going on. And to Rob's point, the mainstream media has been lying to us. They have been lying to us. Now you're realizing 1984 is actually more real than you think, because the media was getting funneled money from the government to push an agenda, and a very liberal Democrat agenda at that. And let's hate Trump agenda as well, right? So Valerie and I talk to people all the time, and they say, we don't understand how people are so upset at Trump. And our response is, that's easy. Everything that they touch, that they subscribe to, that they follow or listen or watch, is telling them Trump is bad. Trump is bad. Trump is this. Trump is that. Trump. All negative. Meanwhile, he's trying to really save America. Uh, that's kind of the way we feel about this. So, thank you, gentlemen, for helping launch the state to state. So, we're gonna do.
I have another one.
Go ahead.
I have another one for you. How about the Democratic National Convention with the election of their delegates in the Democratic chairs, talking about having one man, one woman, and one binary. One binary is still pushing the same agenda that got them
They wonder
in
why
the
they
short
lost.
space they're in now.
That's right. That's right. Let them keep pushing that antichrist agenda. Let them keep pushing all that stuff. So,
Well, that's liberal logic. It isn't that they're wrong; they just haven't done enough of it.
So we're going to go to Nevada first, but Rosemarie wanted to chime in on, I guess, one of these topics. Go ahead, Rosemarie, and then we're going to start in Nevada.
Well, do you remember the lovely bishop that chastised Trump?
Oh my God.
I understand that the Episcopal Church that she is in received $53 million from different organizations in the federal government.
They did.
And that was what?
I saw that. Yes, I was
Yeah.
agreeing with you. Yeah.
So they received all this money, and that is why they do not want Trump or his policies, and they are fighting him, um, tooth and nail. So I thought I would share that with you. And also, there is another thing that's happening. I don't know if you know, many Chinese men have been coming into this country since Trump won the election. And I don't know why. I don't know what the purpose is, but I understand there has been an infiltration of Chinese men. So those are my sharing thoughts with you.
Well, thank you so much for that, Rosemarie. Hang tight. We're going to go to Florida specifically here in a little bit, but let's get into some Nevada data points. We're going to call on Sandra, we're going to call on Holly, and Ron. Ron's already unmuted. So, Ron, what's going on in your state? Thank you.
Well, okay, I'm just going to read what's going on. See if you can keep up. New bill proposes online restrictions for Nevada teens online. End of an era. TGI Fridays is closing down all across America. Las Vegas home prices surged to all-time record. And Nevada initiative to exempt teachers from strike ban moves to the legislature could appear on the 2026 ballot. That's an interesting one. It's a long time coming. Nevada Assembly switches to gender neutral titles. Nevada proposal would add selling deadly fentanyl to first degree murder charge. That's a proposal. Mandatory reporting, a youth proposed bill would require schools to disclose student drug use to guardians, which I think is a good idea. And Nevada legislation session opens with key bills on real estate, mail-in voting, and sports. And Nevada legislature is totally controlled by the Democrats, but we do have a Republican governor. And so we're going to see what happens. So that's my news for today.
Oh, Ron, thank you so much for that data dump as always. And are you warming up yet? And while you're answering that, Sandra, Holly, you're up next. Go ahead, Ron. Are you warming up?
Yeah, I got the stove on.
All right. Take a picture of that stove. I want to see how much logs you can get in that thing. All right, Sandra. Sandra or Holly, you guys there?
I think he pretty much wrapped it up as far as what's going on in Nevada. I couldn't have found that if I tried. The weather, as far as warm goes, it got spring-like almost for about a week, I guess.
Okay.
And that's all I got.
Well, from a national level, you want to add anything that was interesting to you, Sandra, that we want to discuss?
Yeah, I'd like to try and understand about this confirmation of
Cash Patel.
Because this morning, this morning I heard they said, "Oh, we're not going to do a vote," and then each one of them stood behind a podium that said, "Block Cash Patel" in big letters in the front of the podium, and each one of the Dems went up there and expressed why they're not going to be voting for Cash Patel. Now what?
Well, I don't know, but Trump said that if anybody's going to
They delayed it a week.
Yeah, they delayed it a week, but I don't.
What did Trump say?
No, I mean, Trump's just saying that if anybody doesn't, vote for them, then they're going to have
primary against them.
Yeah, they're going to have stuff. I don't know what the punishment is, but probably they're going to be seated. I don't know.
Got to primary them out.
Yeah, or something.
Rosemarie wants to chime in on this topic, Sandra. So let's see what she says.
Well, I've heard that Trump may call a recess, and if there's a recess, he can appoint his people. So that would be the,
Oh, that's a good way to do it.
That's a good point.
Yep.
I forgot about that
so
option.
that would be a home run for him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not a bad idea. So, Cash Patel's
Great
going to get
idea.
in there. It's just delayed, and it's probably delayed because they are shaking. Their skin is going like this.
They're going to release the Epstein list, and that's where Pam Bondi's probably going to release it because she can.
Well, thank
Also,
One
there
more thing. Doesn't Vance, isn't he the president of the Senate?
He is. He gets to vote only if it's a tie, like he did for Hegseth.
Well, that's the only power he has, being the president of the Senate.
That's right.
Okay.
now there is another issue with regard to their going after the not giving information to Doge. Okay. Now,
Oh yes.
my thought is this, that we are Americans. We have the right to have all of the information released to us. There should be transparency regarding all of the money that is spent, all of our tax dollars. So therefore, Elon Musk should be able to get that all of the information that he wants. What are they afraid of? I think we have to be very strong in our position regarding their opposition to giving us or giving him all that information or giving it to us.
You're
Because
right. You're right.
So-
We need to be a lot stronger against that.
Yeah, I mean, we can't crawl into a hole and say, yeah, they're right, or let them, get their way, because they are covering up quite a bit. And as the general said, that USAD is only one pillar. He had mentioned that. There are a lot of other pillars to be uncovered. And the only way that we will find out is through the exposure of the expenditures that have been, have been occurring in our, through the Democrats. So we need to get that.
Yeah, since so many billions, hundreds of 200 billion maybe has gone to Ukraine.
Yes, yes. So
Yeah,
there-
Not according to Zelensky.
Well, yeah, that's another issue.
And Zelensky's like, hey, I'm missing some of my money. So
You think
Those are
Trump's gonna
assholes.
stand for that? No way.
We're gonna definitely
Not-
figure out what's going on with that. So let's transition
Well,
to Texas.
well,
I like Trump's proposal with Zelensky is, yeah, we will help you, but we want to have some of the natural resources. So, I mean, he's a negotiator. So I think that's another, aspect that we have to look at, because, the art of the deal, there it is.
Yeah, and BlackRock has bought up a lot of the farmland there
Yes.
in Ukraine.
Mhm.
It's been a breadbasket for eons. And BlackRock, yes, that's where the money went.
Wow.
but they'll lose those assets though when
I
they're
hope
arrested.
so. Yeah.
Assets. Yeah.
The other
that's
thing,
Trump's side.
the other thing with transparency, if everyone who voted for Trump in the election signed in that, even though we demanded this transparency, but signed a petition, if you would, for the transparency and the release of all that information, would put the Congress and them at a sticky point, let's say coming into the 2026 election.
Or
Mhm.
midterms.
Yeah, the midterms.
Yeah, because they say they have not, Doge is not the president, and no, no one voted for him, but they did, because that's
People
one
of
of
the
the,
government.
that's one of the issues that was, that Trump ran on. So I think we have to be very strong there.
Well, let's go to Texas real quick, guys. We're gonna call on Shell and Becky and others that are in Texas to see what's going on in Texas, and if they want to bring up something that we may have forgot at the national level. Becky, you're up, and then Shell, you can unmute after Becky.
Yeah, there's stuff going on, but it's so back and forth. I don't really get it, and I've kind of been out of the loop for the week because we moved our headquarters last week, so I really don't have anything to report.
Okay, no worries. Did you have a good night with the general? Did you like the show tonight?
Yeah. I was kind of hoping to ask him a Chinese question. There's a flashlight company called Olight, and they make very expensive, very well made flashlights. And I was just wondering about their free enterprise, if they're at all under free enterprise, or what is that? Because they seem like they're trying to do business as if they were like America.
Wow.
Hmm.
Yeah, I haven't heard that.
Their flashlights are so well made that they just late last year decided to offer a lifetime warranty on every product.
Wow.
Yeah, some of their flashlights are going say from $150 all the way up to $600. It's some high dollar stuff.
Yeah.
It's good.
Well,
Anyway.
I appreciate that, Becky. So let's see if we can get Shell to unmute. There she goes.
Yep, I'm here.
What do you want to tell the team tonight? Thank you for coming. And how did you hear about us, Shell?
Facebook, through Facebook.
Oh, cool. Well, I'm surprised anyone sees anything on Facebook about what we do. But thank you for coming tonight and being a part of our Patriot family. What do you want to bring to the table tonight? Thank you.
Pretty much anything that talks about artificial intelligence, like displacement of jobs, potential misuse of AI technology, needing regulations to govern its development and applications across various sectors like finance, transportation, down to even the globalist agenda towards transhumanism.
Sounding like Wendy Webb.
Well, so you're saying AI going out of control is going to be a bad thing, right?
Yeah, well,
in the wrong hands. I think that's
Yeah, it is.
pretty much.
Yeah, you're right. It is. Yep, it's the globalist agenda, and AI is a big part of it. You heard President Trump investing in AI, the new god. It's going to be the downfall. It's a bad
Well,
thing.
it can be used for good and it can be used for bad, but that's why Trump wants to have control of it so he can use it for good and not let the bad people get a hold of it, because then that would cause problems.
I'm gonna pass this on over to you. I'm gonna tell him that.
Oh shit, Tom, wait, you were blabbing to somebody. Hang on a second, Tom.
Wait. He was gonna say something.
So Shell, I'm gonna tell you right now, you are absolutely right. AI is definitely going to be a bad thing for humanity.
Yes.
And I just don't know how long it's going to take to get to that point. But make no mistake. No, it will be, and there's so many reasons why, and it opens up. It opens up. If we look for a second at what China is doing in the sense of social control, okay, 15-minute cities, and they got. Well, hang on. America's already almost a police state in the sense of there's cameras. I mean, look at how many Americans like, oh yeah, I got a Ring doorbell, okay?
Well, they were setting us up for that.
Ring doorbell, and so pretty much, if you think about it, 20 years from now, it's going to be like, hey, you could log into cameras and see something live streaming. So you could think of your dropping your little person on Google Maps and seeing a street view. Now you're going to be able to see live views of a lot of streets all over the country. And privacy, you think privacy exists today, it kind of doesn't, right? Because our zeros and ones are constantly being looked at. So it's going to get worse. You're going to walk from your house you're going to get in your car, you're going to drive to the bank, and ATMs, gas stations, they already got cameras up. Your street lights, your freeways, they're putting cameras on almost every area. Because everything's going to be going to digital control. You'll see. It's just a matter of time.
Yes.
Well,
You nailed it.
It's already in your bedrooms. It's already in your living rooms through TV, through cell phones, and whatever. So anyone could hack into your home and see what's going on in your home.
Yeah. Yep.
I just have to ask the refrigerator how many times you've bought meat the past week.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
And then if we really get to where I think we possibly could get to, and that's fiat currency dies, right? It's already kind of happened where we're like, oh, we're going to be the digital currency of, country of the world. So I kind of already see this. And the moment everything goes digital, your privacy is completely mute. I promise. So you're right, Shell, and we want you to be part of the family and come back every Thursday. Okay, you really. We value what members bring to the table, and that topic is very scary. And to my wife's point, there is good points to it too, if it's controlled and there's all these control mechanisms in place. But I'll remind her and I'll remind everyone else, what happened to the Fourth Amendment? What happened to the Fourth Amendment, right? So if we look at the Fourth Amendment and what our liberties and rights should be, we're not living in a Fourth Amendment America right now, are we? Let's stop kidding each other. We're
Can I expand on that a little bit, Ashley?
Please.
Remember the scientific guy from the WEF? He said people are hackable. You're going to put an intelligence that will be able to hack us and to control us. It will be able to individualize what we see, what we think is real, what we know.
That was the
It will be
nanobots.
the end of us.
Yeah, that was what they were injecting us with.
Yeah, that was Harari.
Harari, yeah.
So you could hack the human mind.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell everybody anything that is networked is hackable. So the moment that we become, because Valerie will tell you that they're creating technology. She said it. Nanotechnology, and there's even nematodes that if they get to your brain, they could change.
They can program.
They could change the way you think and stuff like this.
The way you think.
It's really concerning to me. So yes, Shell, AI does have a lot of negative pieces to it, and we all saw Terminator 2, right? So we know kind of what happens with the machines, and believe me, we're already going to that place, right? We're already creating robots. We already have, drones. The police force is going to have drones. Come on, guys, this is where it's going to go. All right, but it is concerning. Shell, are you saying that you like AI and it's okay, or you worried about it?
No, it's something that it's one of my side project passion points. I've done a lot of research. I've got a couple contacts. One in particular, name I cannot mention. She used to work in that area or that department and do research for transhumanism stuff. And she talked about how, like, basically our skin, like our aura, reacted to, the Wi-Fi, and how she delved into that, and that became like a really big thing. So, and she used to work with this stuff all day long, help develop it. So now she realizes that she's had a turning point of, she realizes that she went all wrong about it, and she wants to be more of an advocate of safety and having, people in mind and their soul in mind. So
what's your insight? What's your insight into 5G and all of that? What's your insight?
Like in terms of 5G, like with our phones and stuff, or
yeah, sure. Yeah.
I don't really think that's, I don't know much about that. I really know a lot more about, like, our skin has a specific patent on it. Like it's almost like it's its own, has its own, aerial number, like our IP addresses do on our computers. Our skin actually has that. It has a patent for it. I know more about stuff like that.
I know a little bit about the 5G.
So Shell, let's do this. Do you have a way of communicating with me directly yet?
Yes, I have text, and I also have the messenger, Facebook Messenger.
Okay, so you have texted me before?
Yeah, I came last Thursday too.
Okay, so
not last Thursday, but the 2 Thursdays before that. Sorry.
So I first and foremost, every member that knows me personally knows that I have a injury, and I forget things. So I'm very glad that we are in comms. So I actually want to schedule a future show, and we could bring that person that's secret, and they could put, you know, like they don't have to have their camera on and all this kinds of stuff. But I do want to bring this very sensitive topic to the forefront because people really need to understand the impacts that it brings. So think about that, okay?
Okay.
Thank you so much. So we're going to go to Florida now. A buddy of mine that moved from cold Pennsylvania, and he says, I hated that blue state. Now he's in the red state, and he's been going to his pool every day except the 1 week that we were like hell froze over and we got cold in Florida. So Tom actually has a buddy with him at his place. So Tom, who's with you? Let's say hi, and then give us some updates.
All right, I have Katie with me. Her phone is so old. I downloaded Zoom. It has no memory or anything, but she came over tonight. She came over, around 8:30, and she's been listening to this show the whole time, and she's really had it. She likes it.
So Katie, what did you think about the general, Katie?
Here.
I thought he was great. It was not what I expected. But the things they talked about were just things I knew about, and I got to see a different perspective on it. And that's what I liked most about it. When it was no spin, it was just the facts.
And that's the way we roll. Truth over the propaganda. Well, I'm glad that Tom showed what we do to you, and hopefully you liked it. And we would,
I did.
We're gonna try to work on a system so you could come every week. Right?
Okay, I would love to, but I'm gonna go get a new phone tomorrow. I've been really just putting it out. Yeah, the phone's a mess.
Well,
just
don't
a
get
mess.
an iPhone if you want to be if you want to be a close friend of mine. Get a good Android. All right, they're gonna be.
Yeah, I will definitely get an Android. I'll get a Samsung. I'm not getting any iPhone. I wouldn't know what to do with it.
Yeah, well, they're an antichrist company, so I don't support iPhone. Anyway, thank you for coming, Tom. What do you think, Tom?
Okay.
What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I liked your guest tonight. He's very informative, and and like I said, Katie was listening, been here for a couple hours, and I've been telling her about. Yeah, well, you know her, and I was telling her about. She wanted to see what it's about. She likes it, so I'm actually she's going to be coming on, regular, once she gets a new phone.
Good. Well, thank you for recruiting. Every member has the power to recruit for Red America First. So, Tom, thank you for getting us +1. We're going to move to another person to chat with here. There is Kelly Lefebvre. Kelly's there. There's a Gregory Maryland. And Teresa, Florida, since we're in Florida. Teresa, you got any Florida updates?
No, not really, honestly. Just been dealing with a lot of health issues lately, going to doctors and having tests done. So, no, I haven't really been paying a whole lot of attention to anything.
Well, we'll be praying for your recovery. When are you going to Tennessee? Is it this month or next month?
Next month, the end of March.
Is there any way to postpone that?
No, no, I'm ready.
Oh man! All right.
Why?
Well, you're an hour away from us, and we're gonna miss you.
Yeah, well, you can come visit me in Tennessee.
We could, but then it's like 12 hours.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. But I'll be coming home plenty. My kids and grandkids are all here, so I'll have every reason to come back home. I'm coming back in April to visit.
Okay. Well, perfect. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Contact for sure.
There's a Susan Hawaii. Susan, do you have any intel to bring tonight? And then there's a Gabby Martinez. And then what we're going to do is Rob, McGay, Ron, Sandra, everyone's going to help Valerie and I have a quick bio break and take our dogs for a quick walk. And you guys will do open mic. But first, I got a couple rules with open mic. One, try to be respectful of sharing the mic and not consuming too much time, because we want other members to chat. Second, be respectful when someone's talking and don't interrupt them. Other than that, can you guys help us out? Oh, the third rule, don't allow 5 seconds of silence. So, boom, we gotta keep topics going. So, Mike, you just came back from a bio break. Valerie and I are about to go on one. So, help us do open mic and control it, get some topics going, and we'll be right back. I love you guys. And those that are watching live stream, this is open mic intel round, and where patriots share what's going on, and we're gonna get started. Thank you so much, Mike, Ron, McGaso, Rob, and Sandra. All those people will help me run this while we're taking a quick break. Thank you.
So what do you guys think about the budget, the congressional budget being passed? Now that we're seeing all this U.S. aid being exposed for all the fraud that's in it. I'm concerned about the Democrats and the Rhino Republicans maybe stopping it. I'd like some opinions on that.
Well,
opinions quick. 5 seconds.
Yeah, I think they should really just redo the budgets instead of one on the bus. Do it and just have a budget for each power that's enacted to the government itself, the federal government. Specify, and then they can see if they have any money left over, where things can be negotiated out. You know, you can't expect to have everything your own way, but I think they should, without any riders or pork put into the budgets, they should divide the budgets up as they used to.
Well, in a perfect world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm an idealist, so.
Yeah.
As Trump moves everything back to the states, that should change the budget. It should be kind of floating right now because a lot of these departments are going to be downsized and there should be adjustments made there as well. But I think it should be a temporary budget, if you would.
Anybody
we
know
need a balanced budget? That's what we need. I don't think it's going to happen though.
Well, you get a lot of that money coming from tariffs and other things too, as well as the assets that are going to be taken from these people now that USAID is exposing a lot more. So there's going to be money that's going to come back into the coffers.
Yeah, as the general was saying about the asset forfeiture, that's going to play out big. You think about all the NGOs that just sucked money up through the immigration. I mean, they did billions, probably over $1 trillion in this past 4 years. Hopefully, they're going to be able to get some of that money back.
Yeah,
because a lot of the CEOs and happen to be Democrats, you know, take money from us and give them to themselves. So hopefully that will come into play. You know,
yeah,
one thing you can do to
Ukraine
agree
owes us a lot.
Take their money.
Ukraine owes us a lot of money to pay back.
Yeah, that's going to be the art of the deal.
And all these other countries are going to have to pay their fair share, if you would, for the protection that we give them.
Yeah, 5%. Hey, did you hear about the aircraft carrier off the coast of Mexico?
Yep.
Going down to the Baja aircraft carrier. You know, that could mean, you know, they're getting close there.
No, I think the general talked about that. It's SIG Intel.
Yeah.
Where they're going down and collecting all the information on the cartels. You know, they have to use cell phones and communications like the rest of us.
Yeah.
That's just an information gathering routine there.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if something popped off over the border there. You know, when you got an aircraft carrier there. I don't know.
Which one did they send?
I don't know. I don't know. I just saw it on MonkeyWorks.
Yeah. Hey, Mike.
I just want to let you know before it's too late. I got to drop off with our corrupt island over here. I got some fires to put out. from unlawful things that are taking place here. So it was a great night, great topic with the general, and thank everybody for their input.
All right. Good
Thanks,
night.
okay, so
All right.
have a good night and happy
Thanks,
fighting.
thank you.
Good
Thank you.
night.
Thank you.
Hey, Mike, I have a question for you. Being in the IRS, have you noticed any difference in the attitudes?
Well, yeah, there's a couple of big differences. First, let me say this. When they passed the Inflation Reduction Act, they put in there a thing where the IRS was to collect more money from people. So they actually weren't making the deals they used to make. I had a much tougher time getting offers and compromising through. Then they went on this hiring spree. Right now, I'm getting panic calls from some of my friends that are in the IRS because they're getting offered buyouts. Otherwise, they got to go back to Manhattan, which they don't want to do. And the CID agents are concerned that they might end up as Border Patrol agents because, as a federal agent, when you carry the gun and the badge, you can get assigned. So, like when I was with the service, I was assigned to the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force, the Secret Service to do protection details, the FBI to do witness protection. So now their real concern is that Trump's going to put them on the border and they're going to be making arrests as border agents.
Or as escorts to leave the country.
Did they ever hire 87,000 IRS agents? I read it. I don't know if it's true. And are they going to get rid of them?
No, they budgeted for that. They hired a little over 10,000, mostly for exam, taxpayer service, and revenue officers to collect the money.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Has there been any reorganization for the external revenue service that collects the tariffs?
No, that's collected by customs, and I know that's a place where he'd like to go, see more money coming in through tariffs, and they froze hiring of the rest of the IRS agents that they want to get on board. And so the IRS right now, as well as the Treasury Department, is in a state of flux. I mean, I'm trying to call to get for my pension money. They're taking out too much for my health care costs, and I can't get through. Every time you call, it's we're too busy, and they hang up on you. I sent an email 2 weeks ago, no response. I mean, those agencies, they're a little bit of a, they need to be,
Customer service.
Yeah, they need to be improved. That I can tell you. That I can tell you. So they are going to lose a significant amount of people though through the buyouts and early retirements because one, especially in New York City, they don't want to go back into Manhattan because of the crime. It's out of control in New York City. So being able to telework really is, and you can do that as long as you got a computer for some of these people. But yeah, so there's going to be a lot of people leaving the service.
Well, that's a shame, but then it's something needs to be done.
If they're good people, maybe they can do some good somewhere else doing something else.
Yeah.
Or get transferred, yeah. Becky, you have your hand up for a reason?
Yeah. This thing about cutting some of the funding has hit locally. I have a 24-year-old young friend that's told me that several of the daycare centers have had to shut down because they're not getting the funding for feeding the kids. And also, the thing about taking the illegals out and sending them back, ICE has already gone to 2 local high schools and pulled some students out. And apparently, my friend is saying that the kids around town are being afraid to even go to school to see, maybe their friends are going to be pulled out or whatever. And then I heard yesterday that the school buses that will be heading south, further south than we are, towards the border, that they'll probably be stopping the school buses and deciding whether or not they're going to go on the school buses and pull students off. But I don't understand how can they do that?
Well, the question is it truly witnessed? Because right now Holman says that they're just going after the criminal illegal aliens.
Well, it could be that they're including the children of the families. The only thing that I've actually seen for myself is we've been driving around town, and I've already seen 3 of the daycare places totally shut down. There's no cars, there's no people, no nothing.
Well, that's an opportunity for someone to start something up.
I guess.
Yeah.
Won't be me.
Okay, Teresa. Thank you, Becky.
Yep.
Something to keep an eye on. Teresa, did you have your hand up? Oh, just thumbs up. Okay. Oh, hang on. Let's see if I don't know if I can unmute you. Nope, that's Ashley has control of the mute. Keep your hand up. When Ashley comes back, we'll get you so you can talk, okay? All righty. Mike, the other thing that I've noticed about, the buyouts or the projected buyouts is that they're going to be going after people that, even though they were on the clock, they were doing something else, like doing a different job. Does that strike any fear into some of your friends in the IRS, that might have been doing taxes while supposedly working?
Well, you won't see IRS agents doing taxes because that would be a conflict of interest that would not only get them fired but possibly prosecuted. What has happened though, and I did know a couple of IRS agents that one girl took a job at Macy's. While she was technically at home working, she was at Macy's and they found out and they fired him. So the IRS takes a very strong position that if you're going to do that, you will lose your job and possibly have to pay back some of that time because you weren't actually on the books. So,
yeah, that's square business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But let me just give you a little IRS update on a couple of things.
Wait, Mike, make sure you tell everybody that you're going to have an IRS show and what date it's going to be and all that.
Yeah, that's March. Let's get the date. That's what March. It's the first Thursday.
Yes, that's correct. And
right,
everybody, you could unmute, please.
Okay, March 1st, RAF.
Actually, it's March 6th, right?
Let's see. I don't know.
Everybody has the ability to unmute now. Apologies for that. And the actual date, so everyone's on the same page of Velarde's event, is the 6th.
3/6/25. Thank you, Mike. Teresa. Okay, you can talk now.
I wanted to ask, have you all heard about, I got a couple messages today, and it's saying that Gitmo begins and what's next military tribunals taking place.
Where did you get that message from?
Rumble.
You really, I haven't heard about the tribunals yet, but they do have 30,000 spots available if they can't get all the bad guys moved out first. They're going to have a little vacation there. Maybe play some soccer, football. So, but Yeah, I haven't heard about the tribunals. That's going to have to be a big thing because that will put everybody on notice.
Right.
Now, one thing the journal was saying that, if they can prove that Biden wasn't truly president, that it was stolen, that would free it up to go after them all. I hope that, I hope they at least have them testify before they talk about the fallacy of let them hang themselves, because anyone that got a pardon, they have to testify, but they can't take the fifth. So I'd like to hear it from their mouths and then burn them to the ground with it.
Mm-hmm. So Mike, I wanted to ask you too, do you think that that Trump will remove the IRS eventually?
No, it's too big. Too big. You need an agency to collect the taxes. He might trim it down to some degree, but to remove it and totally, no, it's not going to happen.
What do you favor? Flat tax, or what do you favor as a tax for fairness?
Well, for fairness, it's definitely a flat tax. But what you have to understand is that the reason the tax code is so big is because the Congress people that are writing it are doing so to benefit the people that are paying for
It's to
them.
hide the money activities and allow money laundering to happen.
Yeah. I mean, for instance,
go ahead, Mike.
If you want a tremendous tax write-off, go buy an alpaca.
Yes.
Just Google alpaca tax. Okay. Why do you give a $200,000 tax write-off to people that own alpacas?
Oh, well, because you have to buy 2 of them at a time.
Right, the alpaca animals, that's true, right? And everything related to the alpaca is a tax write-off, believe it or not.
Oh my goodness.
Hey, Mike, that's been my dream to have a farm with alpacas.
Yes, that's my goal, to get enough land to have a couple
Hold
of
on, hang on.
alpacas.
How does the IRS verify that tax year you had 2 alpacas or not if they died the next tax year?
Well, you gotta prove, have pictures, birth certificates of the alpacas and where they were raised and all that sort of stuff. But don't think I'm not thinking about buying some property so I can raise alpacas and sell some tax deduction.
That sounds great.
Mike, I got a whole list of things you
wait.
can sell off an alpaca too. They're beautiful animals.
But Doge is going to put a stop to these shenanigans, right?
Yeah.
No, actually,
you got to change the tax
alpacas are-
code. I mean, this is the alpaca tax deduction has been on the books, I think, since 2004. 20 years.
Yeah,
Wow.
That's
good.
They are extremely good ecologically, economically, and they're so damn cute when they're small. The only thing is they spit.
Yeah.
So, Gitmo topics being brought up again. Valerie wants to remind everybody, CBS correspondent that got fired by CBS, Catherine Herridge, she's been going to Gitmo and she's got a lot of things that she's releasing. Are you guys aware of this? Over?
Yeah, she's on X. Yeah, I was going to mention that to Teresa. Looks like she's going to be one of the main journalists there recording during these tribunals. And she had, what was it, one that she had posted, stay tuned. She's at Camp Justice at Guantanamo Bay. Yeah. So,
but she wasn't led on the base yet. She was talking from outside the base.
More's coming is what she's saying. She was showing everybody that Guantanamo Bay and Gitmo are real, and she's been asked to go in and do work, journalistic work for the tribunals for disclosure.
They want neutral reporters there that can report honestly and directly, and she's got a pretty good reputation for that. So I mean, there will be others that may come and go, but she seems to be selected as the primary, at least to open the floodgates there.
What's her name again?
Catherine Herridge.
Catherine Herridge. She used to work at CBS,
okay.
And I really like her as a journalist. She's more of those trying to, push the truth kind of thing. And they pushed her out, and now she's at Gitmo covering that.
Good.
Yeah, she's a good one. And Julie Kelly too on X is also good. Julie Kelly.
I wanted to bring up a sensitive topic that Doge kind of exposed. Somebody correct me. Is it 50 million or 50 billion dollars got sent to Gaza for condoms? Over
50 million.
Holy Toledo! Somebody read the list because Valerie's going to bring it up.
No, this isn't about that. This is a list of people that got money from the Ukrainian officials gave this money to U.S. politicians as kickbacks, like Trump was talking about. So Joe Biden got 92 million, Mitch McConnell got 89 million, Nancy Pelosi 86 million, Chuck Schumer 66 million, Lindsey Graham 82 million, Mitt Romney 71 million, it just goes on and on. Elizabeth Cheney, Kevin McCarthy, Jamie Raskins, Mike Pence. Greg Pence. I'm just dropping names.
So these are all
Elizabeth Warren, all the people that are going against voting for any of Trump's, cabinet. So all these people, they get kickbacks from Ukraine. They got kickbacks from Big Pharma. They got kickbacks from Politico. All this stuff is coming out. So
get prepared. Then they should get in trouble. They should get in trouble.
Yeah, they should. They should have the death penalty.
Yeah, they should. Right away. Immediately.
Yeah,
look, it's on the list. Now we see.
I agree.
Absolutely none. I demand justice.
Exactly. We're in justice season.
We need to demand justice.
They fucked around, and now they're going to find out.
Now, I do want to say this, that you saw.
Sorry, but that's the truth.
The actor Sean Penn.
Sean Penn,
yeah, Sean Penn and the fuckers. What's the fuckers?
Ben Stiller.
Ben Stiller. Yeah. All these actors went to Ukraine, remember, and took pictures with Zelensky. Yeah. They got paid by U.S. aid.
Yeah, and then another one from U.S. aid is Chelsea Clinton, and this is a big one today. 84 million, and the Clintons are in big trouble for embezzlement. Yeah. Money was supposed to go out to Haiti. So that every single charity, anything you think.
They actually had a call thing. They had a call thing for Haiti.
The money and take it. They just embezzle it, and then it's just it just goes round and round and round and round.
So are we the only ones that know this stuff, or are people like us the only ones that know this stuff, or is this stuff actually? You would think that people would be fuming right now, but instead you've got on TV on the mainstream news, we've got all these Dems, spurting out like violent, innuendos, for people to be.
I think that they're having to play it out like that, in my opinion, until they take out the satellites for the mainstream media. We're unfortunately going to be stuck in being. People are still going to be brainwashed until that goes away.
But I want to comment on this topic.
Sorry,
because
I didn't mean to cut you off.
The U.S. aid is this was a way of money laundering, and I think there's a list out there of all the shenanigans of money from U.S. aid going to different places. Mike, do you have that?
I saw that. Ron? I saw it. It was on X.
Yeah,
read a couple things. I know the condoms was one of them, but there's more, right? Bring up some examples.
Oh, there's hundreds of things. They have money going for the transgender dances, transgender transformation.
That's right.
Yeah, they do. You're right. But you know what gets me is that you hear these people going, why are they sending money to Ukraine? They don't need that much. They don't need all that money, and stuff like that. And they're sitting there really believing that the Ukrainians are getting that money. That's what kills me. But
now
it goes a step further, and you want to say to them, no, they're not sending all that money to Ukraine. It's a wash. It comes.
Now you know why all these politicians were wearing the blue and yellow pin on their little outfits.
And voting against everything that Trump wants, because they know that once his cabinet is full, they're in trouble, big trouble.
So Kevin McCarthy and all these uniparty people, Lindsey Graham's one of them. Lindsey Graham started this proxy war, but they wore that blue and yellow little flag on their little dress or their suit jacket. They're all
Lindsey Graham
against
doesn't
us.
act like it sometimes. I mean, to me, lately, Lindsey Graham has been speaking on the good behalf. So I don't know.
He's a snake.
He does both sides to keep people not mad at him.
Let's not forget he fist pounded Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's just a suck up, whatever helps him at the moment.
Yes,
Hey everybody, I
exactly.
need to go. I'm really exhausted. So I love y'all. God bless you. Good night.
God bless. God
See
bless.
you next week, Teresa.
Teresa.
Right.
So
Bye-bye.
So
Yeah.
Rob, what and team, what did you guys think of Valerie coming back? I need some feedback because she thinks that she doesn't do a good job.
Oh, Valerie's
Join the
wonderful.
crowd
No, I
there,
appreciate her
Valerie.
input. Valerie, love having you, Valerie.
Hey.
Well, thank you. My husband's over exaggerating.
No, you have to be there to take
Happy to have you
your
present,
husband under
Valerie.
Say
control.
anything, Valerie. I think it's great you're back, but I didn't have to say anything. I was like,
You bring good balance.
he is
to
overly exaggerating.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
Thanks,
somebody
guys.
has to control your husband.
I know. I'm kidding.
They're purposely delaying Trump's appointments. They are.
You're right.
purposely
You
delaying.
are right. Obama had 13 people through in a week. 13
are-
people.
They are purposely going to delay Cash and Tulsi, and they already shot down one other Republican guy I saw. And this is a concerted effort by the Democrats to not convert, and they're going to delay and delay. And Trump needs his team in there, and they know
So Trump
that.
will call recess for a Friday, and
But
then he'll just
be the
support
bad
him all.
guy for doing it. But yeah, that's the truth of it. Yeah.
Well,
Well,
actually,
you know
wouldn't,
what? If he can do that, if he's allowed to be the one that calls recess, I wasn't sure. I thought for some reason it was the Senate that had to call the recess.
Yeah,
I didn't
the
know the president can call the recess on them. But
and who's
if
the
that's
president
true,
of the
then he needs to do the pull the. Well, the president of that is Vance.
right?
Yeah, that's right. And
JD Vance will do it.
the Democrats out there crying in the
I
streets.
didn't know what his power entails, you know.
Yeah.
What kind of authority he has on stuff like that.
But don't you see the Democrats, all these just all of them, they're all out there after Trump, even some rhinos and everything else. But it's basically just what I was trying to say is they're having their insurrection publicly by doing this. You know what I mean? Like going after, like not do. Yes, you know what I'm saying?
Because the majority of America wants Trump's agenda, and they're blocking it. And so I look. I thought.
But now they're going out of their way to scream like hell. I mean, you know, sometimes I can't even. I gotta change the channel if it's on in the living room, and I walk past it. I'm just like, oh my gosh, shut up! You guys are still going at it. What?
Well, did you see that they're trying to draw up papers of impeachment on Trump already?
It's ridiculous. What the heck?
Surprise. I want them in jail. I do. I want them in freaking jail. And it's not
I want justice.
It's not for revenge.
No, it's for justice, like you said.
It's for justice. And because you know what? They really screwed with us big time. If you think about it, they've screwed us our whole lives so far, you know, our entire lives. You
And
know,
they get it for personal gain.
So let's talk about a positive thing Trump just revealed today. And I don't know, Mike, if you covered this while we were on our bio break, but Trump just did the largest tax cut for the middle class in U.S. history, in the existence of our country. He just did the largest tax cut for middle class. And
What was it?
to add to it, there's no tax on Social Security anymore.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
It should.
Well, I don't know.
It
Has
should
that been
be. It's
passed?
always
No tax on
There
Social
was
Security
never
payments.
there was
Has,
a tax on Social Security.
hey, has it
No
been
tax on
There's
passed?
no
Social
tax on
Security
Social.
payments.
Yeah,
Is it
there's
a
no
law?
tax on them.
Is it a law?
No, it
Mike?
has to go through. It has to go through Congress first.
Right. So it
It
ain't a
sounds
law
a lot
yet.
like Nasara to me.
Right.
But you know what? Though Social Security doesn't get taxed.
Oh my god.
Oh,
Well,
yes,
you know,
it does.
there's an 85. Your Social Security is up to 85% taxable, depending on your other income.
Right,
So
right.
that's the bottom line.
Oh
So you want to
shit!
make it totally tax free, which would be the right way. That's the way it was supposed to be.
Right on.
So
Trump just ordered an
basically,
audit.
Oh, please tell me it was the feds.
He
School us
ordered
on
an
it, Mike.
audit of all the
School us on it.
NGOs. All of the NGOs are getting audited.
Getting federal funding.
That's good.
That's game over, folks. Right there will
That's
expose
good.
everything. That'll trump Epstein. You'll see.
I don't know. Epstein's
I
pretty
don't
big because
know.
it's all tied together.
The NGOs have got to go. I mean, that's just I can't even believe, like, when you like realize what has been going on and you weren't even aware your entire life and you're finding all this stuff out right now. It's like, are you kidding me? We have like all these NGOs.
Well,
It's unbelievable.
Hey, if you think about it,
Andrew,
we're
don't
in a
throw out the baby with the bathwater. There are some very good uses for the NGOs.
if you think about
just
it,
go
folks,
randomly throwing them out. You may be throwing out good ones too.
we're living
Like,
in
what's a
historic
good one?
times. We're
I
living
don't
in
know a good one.
we're living in historic times. This might be the hill that the Democrats die on, trying to keep the U.S. aid information away from the public. Because once that's spread out and the public gets a hold of that, man, they're going to crush that story as much as they can. But it could be the hill that they die on because
At this point,
everything falls apart. Could be their insurrection.
Ron,
That's what
I
I was
really hate to
saying.
put
That's
the
what I was
damper on you,
saying.
but let's face it, they brought in a candidate and nobody voted for it. How much of a stink did the Democrats put up on that? Never underestimate that kind of evil. They are fixated. It's going to take a repeated pounding over and over to truly get them out, get the bad parts of them out. I can remember when Democrats used to be good.
I know, I do too.
Yeah.
I remember that. That used to be the good word, you know, the people's thing.
Yeah, but they were the first.
And
I mean,
now
it
it's
could just as
completely
easily have been the
opposite.
Republicans gotten torn down or infiltrated like the Democrats did.
Yeah. They were headed that way for sure.
Did anyone notice
So,
that
go
February
ahead.
3rd, on February 3rd, President Trump signed an executive order calling for the creation of a sovereign wealth fund?
That's interesting.
Yes, I did hear something like that, and I never went back to it. What is that? What does that mean?
The executive order directs the Secretary of the Treasury and the Secretary of Commerce to deliver a plan within 90 days for the creation of a sovereign wealth fund. Secretary of the Treasury and Secretary of Commerce will work closely with the Director of the Office of Management and and the Assistant to the President for Economic Policy to develop the plan. The order directs the Secretary to include in the plan recommendation for funding mechanisms, investment strategies, fund structure, and a governance model, enduring long-term economic competitiveness and fiscal sustainability. Creation of a sovereign wealth fund for the United States will help maximize the stewardship of our national wealth. And then it goes on with bullet points, and yeah, it goes on for a little bit. But yeah, that's a very interesting that it popped up in this time. February 3rd is when that was established, that executive
I
order.
heard one of the paybacks from that, he's setting the U.S. up for when we become a multipolar world. In other words, we won't be the top dog by ourselves. Will be other countries involved with it as well. So he's looking ahead of where we're heading.
Well, I think it puts us on a level playing field when we get to a golden asset backed currency. It puts us on a level playing field with other countries.
Not just gold, any kind of, well, Bitcoin, wheat. We produce a lot that has intrinsic wealth to it.
Mm-hmm.
Where right now, I mean, they're just dealing in stocks, but he did a good job there on that. That's a
So
long
what do you
term
think
thing.
about Canada? Like, just to get off the subject of America for a minute, because they're really like I think they're in fear for their lives. I know a Canadian that is on my chat board, and she, she said we don't even have any. We're under the King Charles, basically. It's
Yeah, they're living under tyranny there. They really
they
are.
are living completely under tyranny, and they're scared to death. A lot of them, because they're like, well, we don't have anybody. I don't think they have Trudeau anymore. I think
he's still there.
He kind of went MIA on them all, and some other guy that's supposed to be going to take over. Supposedly, he's really bad, and basically what is happening is the crown is they have to go by the crown rule right now. So that's basically socialism for sure, no doubt. Closer actually to communism, that kind of
socialism is communism light. But there is a guy up there in the opposition party. They call him the Apple guy. It's a French name. I can't think of it. I can't pronounce it too. But he would be a darn good one to replace Trudeau. And people are sick to death of Castro's son. So
yeah, they are. That's why he took a 3-month hiatus. 3 months. He stepped out of politics, he says, for 3 months, and then we're going to see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just clinging to power for another 3 months.
Well, I think his rating is not really good with people. The people don't like Trudeau, and that's why they're going to need a change here coming up.
Yeah, they've been mocking him, in public areas and stuff. But what they're afraid of is this guy named Mark Carney. He says he will defy Trump by doubling down on wokeness. That's who they're afraid is going to take over for Truman, or not Truman, Trudeau.
He'll have to be elected.
And he's not a good guy, and they're afraid of him, and they think that he's, moving into the to the position.
To a more tyrannical position.
Yes.
Yeah.
He looks like he came straight from the Nazi camp.
Yeah. Well, good luck, Canada. You let them take their guns and then see what happens.
Yep.
And you know what? If you think about it, like Australia, England, I mean, things suck for them. You know, it's not the same kind of life. People think, oh, wow, London, wow, what a great place. No, the weather sucks, and their government is socialism. Even when I was there in the late 80s.
And you can't carry in those places. So why would you go somewhere where you can't carry?
And you know what the thing is they're even more violent than the people here. If you go to a soccer game, or they call it football, if you go to one of them, you're risking your life actually, because it's not a family game. It's a hoodlum game. And all the hoodlums are in there drinking their lager, getting pissed and just fighting after the games. I mean, they don't even let one team out. They only let one team out at a time as far as the fans goes. One team's fans go out first. Let them drive away, then they'll let the rest of them out. They don't want any fights.
Maybe
Crazy.
Philadelphia should take a hint from them.
And they don't have guns, but they got knives and shit. And maybe some of them probably do. What's that, Philadelphia?
Missed that part, Sandra.
What did you say,